Welcome back, everybody, to Goodwill Podcasting with Connor, Dan, and Stone, your movie podcast that today is talking about the first Avenger, Captain America. Both Steve Rogers and Sam Wilson now with the new film, Captain America Brave New World, just coming out in theaters. We wanted to talk all about all four of the movies, all the phases of the MCU that we will see in these entries. It's a very interesting discussion to see how the Marvel Cinematic Universe has transformed over the past 10, 15 years. I'm really excited to get into it. But before we do, guys, we have a returning guest on here, and that is Charles, the real voice. It has been a while. We were just talking about it. It has been since what sequel came out? Smile 2, that we have talked to our friend here. But he is back on with us. My dogs are excited. They're making a lot of noise in the background. Let's fucking go. Welcome back, the real voice.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me back.
So, have you? I remember you saying that you've tried to branch out a little bit. I know you did horror a lot, right? You do horror a lot, but I remember like you've experimented with branching out, talking about different movies. Have you ever done that when it comes to like a Marvel film? I'm very interested because I feel like maybe horror and the Marvel communities don't necessarily line up a whole lot of times. I don't know.
So actually, when I first started reviewing movies, I did every genre. Marvel, I talked about Deadpool 3 before it was a thing. I did a review on Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which I hated, by the way, so don't crucify me.
What?
Damn. I mean, just all kinds of films. And then I went more towards psychological thrillers and horrors and just kind of stayed in that lane for a while. But now I'm starting to branch back out again.
Nice. Well, I appreciate you coming on and joining us again with this morning because I think how long have we done the Sundays? Because we record this, for anybody who doesn't know, we record this on Sunday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern time. I can't remember if we recorded this early when it came to Smile 2. This might have been a new thing.
It was at night.
So, if you guys like the real voice, now you know he's always dependable, willing to get up this early with us.
Yeah.
But Dan, I wanted to ask you for our audience. I don't know if anybody, might be a fan of yours that listens to our podcast. How was the Eagles parade? You're on a little bit of a high right now. I think you got to slap the goat's hand. Maybe I saw a video of that. Did you say anything? Did you kiss? Like, what happened?
Nah, no kiss. It was great. Saw Jalen Hurts, saw Landon Dickerson, who was very drunk. Nolan Smith, who was very drunk.
Nolan Smith was on a different planet.
Yeah, he was not with us mentally, but he's awesome. And Fred Johnson and one other special teamer, but most of the other guys were on the bus. Some guys were on the other side, but it was great. There was I think there was about 2 million people in the city. So, everything went well. It was cold, very cold, but just a really nice celebration. Just good vibes for the city. Very nice.
Did you see anybody get hit with cans or something? I saw a lot of
everyone just throws cans at the bike. It's crazy. Howie Roseman got hit in the head. It's dangerous up there. But a lot of guys were catching the beers and just smashing them on the bus and chugging them. So it was fun. It was a good time.
And light poles were carried, right? No one climbed them, but y'all carried them.
Yeah. I mean, it was really sad. At the national the NFC Championship game, a kid that went to Temple, he was a gymnast or something. He climbed up one and was standing on the top and fell off and died. So that's why after that, the city was please stop doing this. So after the Super Bowl, they ripped some stoplight signs poles out of the ground and were carrying them around. I guess that's a good compromise. People were still definitely climbing stuff, but people are going to do what they're going to do. But all in all, relatively peaceful, so that's good.
Yeah, I saw this interview with this young Eagles fan, and I can't remember what the interviewer was just please be respectful. And he's like, yeah, for sure. And he was just the sweetest, kindest guy. And I was reminded me of Dan. That's what Philly is right there. Everyone's nice all the time. Every single Eagle fan.
Yeah, I think the fan base in general is really kind of misrepresented in the media. And like you look at cities like in Dallas and San Francisco and stuff, like people literally get shot outside the stadiums all the time and stabbed. And it's like, it doesn't happen here. So like, why don't we talk about that? You know, like someone's mean to you maybe for a second when you're walking around and that's, you want to cry about it. Like,
Did you guys have a fan shooting up in the sky after the NFC Championship win?
that was, yeah, that was like a little bit kind of outside the city at like a random intersection. Someone just fired a gun in the air like it's the Wild West. Definitely a complete moron. I don't know if he got caught, but yeah. There's idiots everywhere.
His face is so crystal clear in that video.
What'd you say?
I said it wouldn't be hard. His face is so clear in that video.
So the kid's face that you saw is not the person that did it. The guy's back was turned. It looked like it was the person whose face you saw, which everyone was confused about. But the guy had like a sweatshirt on and his back was turned and his hand was up. But there was a kid's face next to it, so everyone thought it was him, but it was not him.
Glad we cleared that up. I would say, speaking of fans, goodness gracious, guys, it's really I mean, even like friends of ours that have been reviewing the brand new Captain America: Brave New World, like even if you're like respecting the film and you're just like, man, I just don't think this is for me. Man, they're coming for people's throats. Like the discourse, like in the MCU, I guess, community fandom is like really like bitter. It's like just kind of disgusting in my opinion, just how people are treating people who don't like these movies. And it's just an opinion. I don't know why it's that big of a deal.
I literally was about to like, I was gonna make a video about that like this morning because I've seen people just like screen recording people saying the movie was bad, and then being like, "What do you mean?" Like, they're just giving an opinion. Like, what are you doing? Like, I personally, like, I would not recommend anyone watch the movie. If you go and watch it and you like it, that's cool. I don't care. Like, I wouldn't be like, "Oh, these people like the movie and they want like." They're entitled to do whatever they want to do. Like, why do you care? And when you do that, like reviewing other people's reviews, like all you look is like bitter and weird, and it doesn't help the movie. Like, just enjoy it and be happy about it and share that with your audience. Like, it's not a personal thing, but like I don't understand the mindset, and it just feels so like defensive. I don't know. And same thing with people that are like, you know, creators that liked it. People are like, "Oh, you got paid this, that." Like, just leave them alone. Like, you don't like the movie, cool. Like, it's frustrating.
I said I had to talk to my wife about this because I couldn't believe it. But do you know how close we are to the like another Avengers movie? We're 2 movies away, which is wild. We only have Thunderbolts, I believe, and Fantastic Four, and that's it. I think they made a change. I know one is Secret Wars. What do they change the Kang Dynasty name to? I can't remember. Oh, it's like Doom. It's
Doomsday.
Doomsday, right? So there's a Spider-Man movie in between those, but yeah, we only have Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four before. I have no clue how they're going to. I don't even know who the Avengers are, and I think maybe that's what the Thunderbolts is going to be about, but it ain't going to be the Thunderbolts, I'll tell you that, because they're going to fucking get smoked. It ain't going to be them.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at the schedule and see. I think there's some TV stuff coming as well.
But none of that stuff anymore connects.
Right.
So they're screwed. I guess they have maybe a plan. But yeah, I guess I just don't know how they're going to. Maybe Doomsday. I don't know which comes first. Probably Doomsday. I think Doomsday is maybe going to get them all together. And then they're all going to be together for Secret Wars. Maybe that's the only way they can make this thing happen.
The crazy thing is that they announced all of this like 5 years ago, planning for it with the TV shows and these crappy movies that we keep getting, and it just didn't have the buildup that the original set of MCU films had. So no one cares. Like, you know, they're like, "Oh, I'm going to put the Avengers back together." You're like, who gives a shit? Like, it just.
Wait. Also, Stone, what do you mean doesn't? Because I think there's a Ironheart show that ties into the universe. And there's a Daredevil show that ties into the universe. Like they're still part of everything else. What do you mean by that?
I don't think so. I think that I know that they're having separate branches of the Marvel like banner now. So they have Marvel Television, Marvel Studios, and then Marvel Animation, and all three of those are their own separate thing, and they don't tie in anymore. So
Yeah,
I don't know what was the last. I think they already came out with the last. It's just too much of a headache for them. I think they already came out. Maybe Agatha All Along was the last thing they did that had any connection at all.
Wait, so you're
I think
saying Daredevil is
Ironheart.
going to be part of the universe?
I don't think so. I think it's like in the TV universe.
I think Ironheart will still have a role just because she was in Wakanda forever.
Yeah, that's fine. That's what I'm saying. Like, what? How does that work?
And Daredevil was in Spider-Man.
Let me see here. They just came out. They just came out with this news not too long ago. So
They might
I
have
don't know.
their own
Maybe,
separate show, but the show won't tie into the main storyline. Maybe.
yeah, exactly. 100%. That's what they're probably going to do. Which I mean, Charles just
Wait, so
said
you're saying they're still in the universe? They're just going to tell stories that aren't part of the story.
basically like you don't have to. If I understood correctly, which is I think a smart move, you do not have to watch the television shows to understand anything that's
Got you,
happening.
but still part of the universe.
Yes.
Okay, understood. That makes
Sorry.
sense.
Sorry.
No,
But
you're
yeah.
good.
So in a sense, like through that mindset, like they only have two movies to set up an Avengers film. If
Yeah.
nothing from the TV shows is going to connect.
Yeah.
So the mindset there is like they're tired of people saying, "Oh, well, I didn't see this TV show, so I can't watch the movie."
Mm-hmm.
Which is crazy to think how like when I watched Captain America: Brave New World, just how long ago Falcon and the Winter Soldier came out. It was funny because there was like some really. It's really hilarious because there's some big Marvel fans that were sitting next to me when I watched the movie, and to be honest, they were the only ones really having a good time. Not gonna lie, but they were sitting through the credits and everything, and they're like, "Hey, how do you like the film?" And I was like, "Well," and I gave some reasonings why I didn't like it. And one of the big ones that we'll get into was like how far away it was from Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And I was like, that came out 4 years ago. And they're like, there's no way that came out 4 years ago. And I was like, yeah, it was one of the first shows after Disney Plus debuted on, or Falcon and the Winter Soldier debuted on Disney Plus, and they like couldn't even believe it, and they were like big Marvel heads.
Yeah.
Everything just gets lost in the sauce, and that's bad sauce. That's like I don't know, Thousand Island.
Speaking of a
Still, we
long
still
time,
need a
you guys
sauce
want to
ranking.
talk about the first movie?
Yeah, we can talk about it. Connor, you have been saying that you have been rewatching Phase One, and
Yeah.
Captain America: The First Avenger obviously is part of that. I'm curious from your perspective, from your fresh perspective of the MCU films that you've recently seen, and what you've seen, like I don't know, Deadpool, Wolverine, and I don't know, the Marvels, Eternal, stuff like that. What's the biggest difference that you've seen between the origins and where they're at now when it comes to Marvel in general?
The biggest one for me is it seems like they actually gave a shit. But no, I mean, I like how they were bringing in like bigger name actors for this, like Hugo Weaving, Stanley Tucci. Like they brought in people who didn't need to be there for the entire franchise, but I think that helped elevate the movie. Now, I say that I'm actually not as high on this as a lot of people are. I think a lot of the war scenes, part of it is too rushed, and then other parts they just drag on and like they don't understand how to pace it properly. It feels like. Do you guys share that same like sense?
Yeah, Charles, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's true. I will say the one thing I did like about the first Avenger was that it knew that it was a period piece and it tried to be that throughout. So that keeps you kind of immersed into the film. But yeah, I mean there are pacing issues, especially when they're trying to showcase him, with the whole being the icon. They're building him up, keep showing him on the stage and then showing him going around to different places. And you're like, all right, we get it, what he is. Now move on to what the fuck the story is about. We get that he's a propaganda machine at this point.
Yeah, like I like everything that leads up till he gets the serum, and then it's like you said. After that is when he's doing the shows. Then it takes forever. It feels like.
Yeah.
I think this movie is really a really big mixed bag. I enjoy a lot of the stuff about like this. There's a lot of good actors in this, right? And they're all doing a good job. I think the script is pretty good. Joe Johnston is a good director. He made The Rocketeer, which I don't know if any of you have seen. It's a movie I really, really love. That's kind of a similar feel, and it's almost like World War II, or I think it's that era Iron Man, and it's like it's a movie everyone should watch. Go watch The Rocketeer. I think it's like a better version of this sort of, but I think he knows how to create like a period feel. I think he does a good job, and Tommy Lee Jones I think is really good here. I think he's doing a nice job, and I like everything with Steve and Peggy because they kind of set up for you that she is maybe not interested in him, but like has respect for him before he is like conventionally attractive or whatever, like gets bigger and stuff. And I like that. It's not just that she's like, oh, now you're good looking, so that would just feel like weird. But I think she just respects him as a person, and he respects her. So I like that dynamic a lot. I like this movie when it's just characters talking and when it's dealing with the idea of Steve and the idea of Captain America and him being used as a tool for propaganda. And then there's just like Hydra and these like blue laser beams and just these ridiculous action sequences and this like team of people he has with him that I just don't care about. It's just like it's a different movie.
Yeah.
And it just feels like such a waste because this like I like one of the first comics I read was the Ultimates comic when I was young, and I loved Captain America in that. And they would end up using that as inspiration for like the Avengers and a little bit of Age of Ultron, like and the Incredible Hulk as well. But I loved Captain America, and I loved Captain America when I was a kid too. And I was so excited when this came out when I was young, and I did really like it. But watching it now, I'm just like, there's a lot of just dumb stuff in here, and I love Hugo Weaving, but like Red Skull's a little goofy. And the accents they're doing are like a little goofy. I guess it's supposed to be over the top, but I'm just like at a certain point, I don't know. So
I just think he's a boring villain too. I mean, I guess it's just like it stems kind of from like the Germans. Like he thinks that his race or just him in general is like a higher power. So he thinks he's above just even Hitler and obviously everyone else and just wants to have he's just a second Hitler basically.
It's interesting too because the Nazis were like obsessed with like occult stuff and all of that, and they were like Hitler was sending people all over the world trying to find this and that. It's an interesting setup for a villain. I wish they played it a little more serious, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, the blue laser beams, it's tough. Like, I also think the action in this movie looks pretty poor. It's funny because the other two movies are not like this. Winter Soldier is probably the best looking film out of any of these, in my opinion. But it's funny because everyone's like, the CGI in Brave New World isn't that good. CGI in this movie isn't that great. I'm looking at it. It kind of looks low budget at times. And I'm like, ooh. We were a lot more forgiving back then. A lot less social media back then. But my biggest issue with this is that I don't know if this is just his character, like the core of his character, so he's just like this. I think Steve is kind of a boring character, in my opinion, because he doesn't necessarily have any flaws, or he doesn't really have a tough time when he becomes Captain America at all. And I think there's an interesting way they could have made that happen. The only like difficulty that ever comes to him is when Bucky dies. That's the only time where he's like devastated, like, oh shit, let me take a step back and like think about this for a second. But I think it would have been really interesting that he kind of just jumps onto the battlefield after he saves those 400 guys. And it's just like, oh, this is the guy, let's follow him. I think it would have been a lot better if he had difficulty out on the field, like in combat, because he was trained, right? He did go through boot camp, but maybe he didn't complete it all because of his procedure that he had done, his transformation. So in a way, I don't know if he would be cocky, but he would be overconfident in his ability to beat the Nazis or to beat Hydra. And then that would give him a great and then he fails at it, right? He doesn't know where to be, he doesn't know where he should shoot or stuff like that. And then I thought that would have been a great way to connect him with those random guys like you were talking about. Like you don't care about them. But if they had a relationship with Steve and maybe you got to learn more about them and why they were there and they help him, be even a better Captain America, a better soldier, I think that would have been a great storyline in this film. That would have been really engaging. It would have helped them out. It would help probably even Bucky out, and would have helped Steve out too. Like that would have
Yeah,
been.
but then if you make Captain America's character cocky and arrogant and like that,
Like-
then it takes
like-
away what Stanley Tucci's character said, that he's a good like person, not a good soldier.
Like he doesn't have to be cocky. He has to be naive, right? It's not cocky. It's overconfident. Which is that always cocky? I don't think so. He just doesn't think about. He just doesn't have these like skills ingrained in his brain because he hasn't been out on the in combat before. I don't think that comes with
Yeah,
the serum.
I also think he's weighing every risk and like not willing to sacrifice other people's lives, like we see in boot camp when he jumps on a grenade for people that I wouldn't say have been like douchey to him, but like obviously.
Well, he wouldn't be sacrificing other people's lives. He'd be sacrificing his own and putting his own in jeopardy. And then
That's what I'm saying. He won't take the risk to have other people get injured. He's going to weigh all of that, I think, as part of his character. I mean, I hear what you're saying. Like, he could have been a little naive, but I also think he's weighing every risk to not, have that.
I guess
happen.
we don't see that. It's just like what are those scenes called that they just play through a bunch of time?
Montage.
Montage scenes of him in battle. I guess that's as much as you get. I just wish there was more. Like I said, more of a connection with those guys.
It kind of just feels like they give him the serum and then suddenly he's Neo in the Matrix. It's like, oh, he knows how to fight perfectly now. It's like, I don't think that's how it works, but okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The serum doesn't like make him like perfect at fighting. It just makes him like a super soldier.
Right.
I think.
He's just been studying how those guys his entire life have been throwing punches, and now it's his turn. I don't know.
Yeah.
I also think, Stone, I guess a little bit against what you said, I think it does show him struggling in that he doesn't want to just be a tool for propaganda. He doesn't want to just be, paraded around. It shows him, like, at one montage, it shows him literally doing the same show over and over and over. I think you're supposed to feel like his frustration that that's all he's doing. Like, he's just there to, sell war bonds and this and that. So, and I love one of the best, like, cuts of the movie is it goes from one of those performances to then he's actually in Italy or whatever on the front lines, and they're all just staring at him. And you get the sense that these guys are just like, I don't want to watch this bullshit. Like this is just like it is. And it's so like gray and dark, and it shows you like what it actually is, and how dumb it is, and not dumb, but like when you're on the front lines, just like that's not what they wanted. And I like that because you kind of feel the weight of, all those guys looking at him who have like actually been fighting and dying and
yeah, he drops that line. Who wants to go watch me sock old Adolf in the jaw? And everyone,
yeah,
come on.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, there's so many good moments in this movie, and then it's just like there's so much just kind of sloppiness.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I also think that Connor, what you were saying, like, with that would have been out of character for Steve. I think one big out of character moment is when he's flirting with that one girl, the blonde, and she's like trying to seduce him. I don't think Steve would do that and like
I
just
almost
kind of
got
make out with her.
I almost got the sense that he didn't know that they were flirting.
Yeah, I don't even think he was flirting with her. I think he was just like she was just like, this is gonna happen. I mean,
okay,
yeah,
he was acting like a little boy. He was just like staring at her, which I guess he's a guy. I mean, I don't know. I think that, in my personal opinion, I think Miss Carter, well, utmost respect, is a more attractive woman in my opinion than the other one. But that's personal taste. So he already had, he likes Peggy. I don't know. I think that was like I don't like that he did that, but maybe it was more her than him. I don't know. She was
I don't
very
think it was him though. I mean, he even
she
said
kisses
like,
him.
yeah, he even said in the
he
car
looked like
with
he was
Peggy.
really not enjoying it. He looked like he was miserable, didn't he?
I mean, yeah, I disagree.
He said in the car with Peggy that was the longest conversation he ever had with a woman. So obviously, he just maybe didn't know that was flirting. Till the kiss.
I think he's just kind of like out of his depth with, like, he's never gotten any attention for anyone. Like, I feel like it's understandable to like not necessarily know how to handle every situation.
Which actually adds to Stone's point that if he was on the battlefield being cocky, that might have actually played well because he's never had the ability to act out the way he wants to, or be able to, you know what I mean, execute certain things that the way that he sees fit to fight.
Yeah.
He that's just a human thing. Captain America is like perfect all the time morally, but that would have been a good point in the film to say, you know what, I'm a good man. I need to remember that I'm a good man, and kind of reel that back in. And they could, you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah. You do get that awesome moment of her shooting at him with the shield. Yeah. She's not playing.
When characters just have flaws, it just makes them more interesting. So when
Right.
you have someone like Captain America who has to be noble, and that's why he was chosen for, this procedure, this experiment, it's more so around him and, dealing with the world around him that gives him interesting characteristics rather than himself. Like, he doesn't have flaws, he has situations, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like, there's, especially in the second movie, or The Winter Soldier, there's so much going on that's very engaging, and he doesn't need to be like a terrible person. That's not what I'm asking, but yeah, I just think, like you were saying, Dan, he is a piece of propaganda, obviously, but then that like disappears probably halfway through the movie, and there's really nothing else besides Bucky dying. So it would have been interesting, but then also, movies I think is over 2 hours long. So I mean, maybe that wouldn't have been too much to add on 5, 10 minutes of him actually connecting with that group of guys, which they actually have a name. Can't remember what they're called.
The Howling Commandos.
There you go. So maybe you did like them. Look at that. That was quick.
Yeah. I mean, I like wanted to like them. I just like they don't get like personalities. Also hilarious because the Wonder Woman movie straight up just rips off the Howling Commandos.
Yes.
Literally, it's just the same exact thing. It's like that's another.
That's the movie that was rough on rewatch. Let me tell
The
you.
Wonder Woman movies also cast Gal Gadot, who's just not a good actor.
Let me do it. Let me do it.
Fucking terrible. Yeah, she can't act. That's true.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's just a solid, like you said, it's a period piece, Charles. And I think that's just it just makes it completely different, I think, than any other Marvel movie, which automatically kind of hooks you. I also think they did a really good job with the shrunken version of Chris Evans. I think it looks.
Yeah.
If they needed to get one CGI element of this thing right, that would have been a huge distraction if they didn't. It was that, so I'm glad they got that right. I would take that more than, I don't know, dark Germany, 1940s Germany that just looked like not very good. But I will say though, I don't want to get into it too much, but Winter Soldier, they made one scene like that. It did not look as good as the first Avenger. I don't know what happened, but it looks very awkward. But they did really good job here.
I also think what was I going to say? Oh, seeing Howard Stark is cool. I like that.
Yeah.
I like getting to see their dynamic. Even Howard's kind of interested in Peggy too. Like that's kind of a fun, like just because he's kind of slimy.
Are they fun doing?
Okay, I was just gonna say, is Steve dumb? Like he actually thought that meant like I don't know. He's like he thought that meant sex. He's like, dude, no, fondue is cheese. I think Howard says that. Like, is Steve just live in a box because he's just sick and like 4 feet tall?
I feel like a lot of people today wouldn't know what fondue is.
Well, I guess it is the 1940s, so maybe that's that was like a new thing. Okay, maybe. I mean, Howard does look like he's pretty wealthy, so maybe that's something.
I'm not up on fondue history, but also another bad like Stanley Tucci's German accent here. Like, what are we doing? It's just not good.
Can you do a German accent, Dan?
I can speak. German's the only language I can speak a little bit, but
dude, say welcome to Goodwill Podcasting.
No. But Hugo Weaving said he modeled his accent after Werner Herzog, which is kind of funny. I think he was doing an all right job, but I also liked the storyline of Stanley Tucci, like being I think he was supposed to be a Jewish man, right? Like he was a Jewish scientist that had to leave Germany. Yeah, and we just talked about Oppenheimer last week, and I talked about how Germany's nuclear program literally failed because Hitler wouldn't trust his fucking Jewish scientists. Like, that is why it failed. He's a moron. And his, like, hatred, understatement of the millennium. Hitler's a moron, but he was just so like blinded by how much he hated people that he couldn't even allow himself to make progress with that. But I like that storyline. I thought his like assassination was a pretty good scene. I just wish this movie, like, if this movie had no action, I would like it a lot. It's just,
I would say I don't think any of the action scenes are good, in my personal opinion. I think they don't look good. Like I can't remember like what's one memorable action sequence. Maybe when he like first has his transformation, he has to chase that guy through the streets. I think that's pretty interesting. Like learning to control his new body. That might be the one. Like I think everything
kind of
inside
like the train
buildings in
sequence.
Germany. Which one? The train?
The train sequence.
It reminded me of the beginning of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I just think fight sequences on fake trains is not good. Like I want
I
everyone to be
think you
Tom
mean the
Cruise.
Dial of Destiny reminded you of this, since Dial of Destiny was like 10 years later.
No, because I didn't remember this movie. I forgot it. Gone. Now it's
I don't mind that sequence either, Connor, especially because it ends in like something that's actually emotionally impactful, which I just
the plot point.
A lot of times watching we'll talk about it later with Civil War. Like there's a lot of fights in these movies where it's just like nothing's gonna happen to anyone, and I'm just like, why do I care? Like the fight scene in Civil War, I'm just sitting there like, and they're just like quipping at each other, and I'm just like, oh, okay, this is like 40 minutes long.
Yeah.
I don't know. I still like that movie, but it's not because of that scene. It's because of a lot of other stuff. But do you guys have any last thoughts on this? I feel like we've kind of touched it all.
Yeah.
Since we watched all 4 of these, well, me 3 for this episode, the only thing that like really bothers me about this one is Dr. Zola's like character development just doesn't make sense for me, because like you see genuine hesitation from him like in this a lot, and then in Winter Soldier, he's like, I guess it's AI, but kind of not AI. But like he's just so willing to like kill him right away. In that one, and in this one, there's like obvious hesitation to hurt anyone.
He feels He feels like he's just scared of Red Skull.
Yeah.
Like what he's doing, but
he feels like he's working.
He doesn't seem like a killer.
He'll kill him. So
yeah,
I mean, 30 years in a computer can maybe do that to you. I don't have experience with that, so it can maybe like drive you insane.
Yeah.
Sure. I will say one thing about this movie that I posted on Twitter, but I really liked, and it was refreshing to go back and watch this, was I missed like the only cameo in these films being just Stan Lee.
Yeah.
And I don't have to like, it's not another Avenger. Like it's just, and I thought it was very funny because I feel like people nowadays like would rip this to shreds, but it's a scene after Cap saves the 400 people, or those 400 prisoners, those soldiers. It's just like a medal he's supposed to get, like a ceremony, and he just doesn't show up. And Stan Lee just says, I thought the guy'd be taller or something like that, because some guy comes out and grabs the medal. And then it just goes to a scene of this like Howard Stark, Tommy Lee Jones, and Chris Evans just talking, and no one acknowledges that even happened. Like no one talks about that ceremony. It was just it could have been added on, just literally a scene just added into the movie, like post-production really, with just Stan Lee, and I like really liked that. It felt different.
I think the last thing I'll say here is just I do like Bucky and Cap's dynamic gets built out really nicely here, and you feel like they're actually friends. And the way that kind of changes once he gets the serum, you know, they kind of swap roles where like Steve was always kind of looking up to Bucky, and like Bucky's saving him in fights and this and that, and then it's like, you know, Bucky's trying to get Peggy's attention, and he's like, I'm not even here. He's just looking at Steve. So it's kind of a fun reversal. I think I like that, and Sebastian Stan is just such a good actor.
I will say good thing about these movies is, man, that they really helped him like get his footing in Hollywood, like get the deals and the roles that he's getting right now. So
yeah. I agree.
He kind of owes them, so I'm not surprised that that he's still doing Marvel movies. Everyone's like, oh yeah, he was Trump, in A Different Man, and oh, I forgot, he's going to be in Thunderbolts.
I mean, I like when actors do like diverse things, and I think he's like I think Bucky is a really interesting character, and he's very important. So I'm glad they got a good actor to play him.
Would you guys all rate the first one?
I gave it a 2.5.
And I got a little higher. I have it at 3 out of 5.
Hey,
It's a movie I always want to like, and then I watch it and I'm just like,
I also have it at a 2.5.
I do as well.
And I don't hate watching it, but it's just
You don't love watching it.
no, I don't hate it though. It's a 2.5. It's just meh.
It's meh.
Yeah.
We can get into a movie that's not meh.
Yes.
Dude, this movie rocks. I was watching. This movie's infinitely better, in my opinion, than anything that we like the other three. It's so good, and I think the thing that stands out to me the most is fans of the MCU might hate this. I think above anything else, these movies, and I think this might be understood, need to be less about Marvel and canon and building a world, and just have good action scenes. Try to make the action as well and choreographed and thought out as possible, because there's so many sequences in this that are so damn good. And I was just shocked by how many of this I remembered as well. And that's the thing with like Captain America: The First Avenger. I'm like, I didn't remember really anything. And I like that it's all, there's not a lot of CGI. Like, it is like espionage. This is like a political thriller in a way. And even in Civil War, they get more into, obviously, with the big airplane, fight sequence, and then also with Bucky and Cap and Black Panther, T'Challa, like running through the streets. It just doesn't have the same effect because it's just quick, like speedy CGI dudes. But this feels so I don't know. It just feels so different than the other three films. And then, I mean, one's just Samuel L. Jackson, like a car chase sequence with Samuel L. Jackson, and it's really good. And I think that's the first big fight sequence we see in the movie, and I just wouldn't have expected that to be with Samuel L. Jackson. But like you said, Dan, I don't know if you want to talk about it, this is like the main draw of this film, like what they do here with just the fleshing out of Bucky and Cap and him having to deal with what's happening to him, but also obviously, being a soldier and always trying to follow orders, but then in his eyes, he might have to do something that, is not morally correct, and that is not following orders, which is so personal for him, obviously, as we've seen, who he is in the first Avenger.
Yeah, it's interesting because, and like, this is a really long conversation. I don't want to, get too long into it, but Captain America is so interesting because, like, the America he, goes to sleep in is not the America that he wakes up in. And watching him figure that out and then still stay true to himself and understand, like, what his purpose actually is and who he is so interesting. And that's such a simple thing, but, like, it's effective. And, this movie, you're getting to see him just kind of tackle the world and understand the world and see that, the people that are giving you orders can be evil. This movie is very bold, and I feel like actually has some stuff to say. Watching Brave New World, I was like, this is the most spineless, bootlicking, weird movie I've seen in a long time with its like messaging. And I didn't even talk about the movie, but like we'll get to that. But this movie is like just very effective because, and I mean, again, cast good actors. Like you have Robert Redford, one of the best actors of all time, as your villain. Like it's brilliant. You just let them go, let them act. And like you said, Stone, like these action sequences are so interesting. And I love the Nick Fury moment because like Nick Fury's a badass and like he gets to actually just like shine in that way. But like people get hurt and people die, and people take damage, and like it feels like there's actually some drama and some tension. It's just it's a good movie, and it's not trying so hard to be. There's no multiverse. There's no CGI monster. There's no bullshit. It's just a good movie that happens to be part of the MCU. But when you string those together, then you get to big moments where it has emotional impact because you care and you've watched them go through stuff like this. So this movie's awesome.
Charles, what do you think?
It's my favorite one out 4 without a doubt. I remember the first time I saw it in theaters, I walked out of there going like, I think it was that one. I thought the MCU knew that it was going to make like almost like subcategories within the MCU. Like we're going to have, spy drama. We're going to have a lean towards a horror genre. And actually, this film actually gave me hope for New Mutants. They were buying Fox. I was like, oh, maybe they're going to have a horror the MCU because they were marketing it that way, and then ended up being a piece of shit. But because of the Winter Soldier, I thought they were going to have these subcategories in the MCU where they're like, they have these different, almost like they're trying to do with Fantastic Four right now, where it feels like it's kind of like a family drama film. I don't know if you guys got that vibe from that, but Winter Soldier did that for me. Like, man, they have something here where they can really make good movies and have you care.
We have to allow something to feel unique, right? I feel like a lot of that is giving a director and a writer the reins, or a cinematographer, and saying like, make your movie. It's not Kevin Feige's movie. It's not Disney's movie. It's your movie, and whatever that looks like is okay. It doesn't have to be the same as everything else.
Right.
I think that this movie is like shot well. The cinematographer Trent Opalk did District 9. He did Elysium. He did Chappie, so he's worked with Neil Blomkamp a few times. He also did Yellow, which was a short from Neil, and then he did Winter Soldier, Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame. I like how this movie looks, and it's a good script.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a little bit funny in moments, but it's not. They're not really worried about that. Like it's focused on the story. I like that a lot as well. And Frank Grillo's good in this too. He's a good, kind of no nonsense muscle guy, but he has an edge to him, and it feels like he's actually dangerous. I like that.
It just seems like he's pissed off because he can't. He's such like I hate this term, but an alpha male, but he can't fucking compete with Cap. He's like, damn it, this guy's like, freaking, I can't do shit.
Yeah, but I feel like most guys in the world that claim they're an alpha male think they're Frank Grillo in their head.
Well, yeah. That's exactly why I said that. He's the perfect archetype for it. One thing I also love in this movie, it's just so perfect, is the relationship between Natasha and Steve. It's so good because it, like you said, Dan, it allows what you wanted in the first Avenger, which was just scenes of people talking. It's the two of them because they both have, like, in a way, a very difficult past, and they both don't necessarily know about each other. So they're very interested in connecting, which allows them in natural conversations to voice their thoughts and opinions on matters, especially regarding, Shield. But then also it feels natural and there's great chemistry there. But also it keeps the audience super engaged in these two characters, especially when, Bucky comes in the situation as well. And then the whole situation with Cap not knowing if he can trust Natasha with what's going on. And you've talked about her past this entire time and how she, is very, not terrified of it, but very secretive of it. And then you have the great payoff of that plot line is the fact that she doesn't care at the very end if she reveals everything about her to the world. Like, she cares more about, her ideology is more aligned with what Steve believes when it comes to this stuff because she has spent so much time with him.
You know what, Stone, while you're recapping this, I remember thinking when I was rewatching The Winter Soldier, like, man, they really took a lot in building characters in a meaningful way. So when they all got together as a team, they felt like a team. Where now we're getting to this new Brave New World, and it's like, man, they're just slapping shit together, and you just don't give a shit. It's like Disney just became a machine. Like, oh, who else can we pull into the universe? Try to get butts in. Where before they were clearly trying to flesh out these characters and these storylines, and they mattered. This is easily The Winter Soldier is easily one of my favorite MCU movies. It's got to be top 3 for sure.
Yeah,
it's a must.
I also think this is just quietly like almost like a Natasha movie. Like she gets so much to do. I don't know why they didn't just give her. I mean, I do know why they didn't give her a movie because they thought it wouldn't sell. With what
they should have done it right after this. This would have been the perfect time.
Yeah.
But like Scarlett Johansson's a really good actor, and it's a good character with so much to get into, and yeah, it's just frustrating. But she's really good in this. I like that they keep their relationship like as their friends. So I feel like there is. I mean, they have decent chemistry, and I feel like there is like she kind of like pokes and prods him. I feel like a bit like romantically almost to kind of like mess with him, and he's kind of just like keeps his distance in a way. And I feel like if he had kind of pursued her, she might even just like eventually be like, nah, no. But I like that it ultimately kind of it just stays like there's enough like flirtation, I guess, to keep you curious about what'll happen, but nothing happens and they're just friends. So that's good, I think.
Well, I don't know because I think that they do a really genius job in the script, which shows you that they are just friends, and also the fact that Natasha really cares about Steve and wants him to have a good life is the fact that constantly in this movie she's trying to like pitch him girls like that he should go after, that he should date all the time. And I think that just shows you that first of all, she's flat out telling Steve, "You're not going to get with me." But then also, secondly, she's trying to make him enjoy life rather than being stuck in the past, which is hard because his heart belongs to Peggy.
Yeah.
I will say, I'm going to go back to the first Avenger. When he kissed that girl, I know. When he kissed that
She
girl,
kissed him.
and she kissed him, right? And Peggy got upset. I didn't like that she just got over it by seeing her picture in his compass, and then they never address it again. I'm just gonna say that. I'm just gonna say that.
She
But
shot at
she's also like a grown adult. Like it's not that serious. Like in the grand scheme of things, they're in World War II. It's just not that deep. Like
him. Yeah, she shot at him.
World War II makes it not that deep.
no, it's just bigger stuff going on, man. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah,
Like,
that is true. That is true. I thought they did a great. I don't know if it's CGI. Is it CGI or practical effects that they did on Haley Atwell and when she's like older Peggy? I think it might be a combination of both. They did a really good job, I will say, with whatever they did there with her when he's seeing her in the bed. And also, I love that. I thought about it. You jump into the scene and they're in the middle of a conversation, right? And you're like, this is really interesting. This is engaging. Like, how is he talking to Peggy? But then, obviously, towards the end, she's just like, Steve, you're here, you're alive.
yeah,
And he doesn't say, like, not again. He doesn't say, like, oh, no, no, Peggy, we were just talking. It shows you two things. It's the fact that she's probably like, I wonder how many times Steve has, like, been sitting there talking with her that she has done this, right? And he just loves being with her and does not care. Um, but yeah, but then also the fact that Steve just doesn't have an issue with her doing it at all. He's just along for the ride. Like he's just obsessed with this girl, which I don't blame him. I don't blame him.
Well, it was also, not that long ago for him. He just wakes up. He still has his mind when he was nice. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah,
Also,
it's like a 3-year gap for him.
Yeah.
I think we haven't talked about it, but Sam Wilson in this movie is awesome. I mean, I think I like his backstory. He works for the VA, basically like helping people to have PTSD. He's come out of combat, and it's interesting. It's a small line, but he basically says like, I think he says like his wingman got killed, and after that he was like, I didn't really know why I was there. Like, and I think that was a good way to show like a lot of times those guys in Iraq and Afghanistan were really just kind of fighting for each other. Maybe they didn't quite understand what the purpose was or what the objective was. But anyway, I like that. And I think he's just such a good dude and a really good character. And you kind of see their relationship grow and their friendship grow. And it's very natural. I mean, that starts the movie, essentially. I think Falcon's a great character. And I enjoyed his usage in this movie. Like Cap, like Bucky, Natasha, Falcon, Nick Fury, everyone's interesting in this movie and gets to like grow and change a little bit. Like
What happened?
yeah.
I wish that story about his like his buddy dying came back in any way. I don't know if it does in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I can't remember, but I feel like that's such like an integral part to his character, like something that's really affected his life that just should be more of a thing, you know?
I was gonna say I don't even remember that in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which was the only show I finished.
Yeah. Something I don't really like Sharon Carter much at all.
Yeah.
I don't think she's interesting. I mean, the idea, I kind of like her at the beginning with the idea of, like, they have her kind of living next to him to like keep an eye on him. Like it's interesting. It's part of the like intrigue. But even is it this movie or Civil War? It's Civil War that they kiss. I'm just there's nothing here. This is weird. Like, it feels so forced. I don't know. I don't think she's that.
I don't think they should have kissed.
Not to jump ahead, but it literally felt like she was just planted in S.H.I.E.L.D. to be able to steal their stuff back for them for the Civil War fight.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, at that point, it's CIA, not S.H.I.E.L.D., but
definitely in Civil War.
Yeah.
But I also, the Winter Soldier in this, like, he feels like such a force. Like, he feels like completely unstoppable. You get to see him kind of grapple with everybody. And I like that. I mean, part of me is just like, man, this guy would just get shot in the head at some point, right? Like, just like shoot him in the head. Like, what are we doing? But he feels very capable. He can use like any weapon and just. I love the way he just keeps coming. It's in the scene where he like stops them on the road, like when they're in the SUV, and he's just like walking down the street with a grenade launcher. I'm like, damn, this is pretty cool.
I don't know. I feel like these movies are just more edgier, if that makes sense. Like the fact that Robert Redford like turns around and just like executes that housekeeper. Just like, man, I really wish you would have knocked, and just like takes her out. Like, I just feel like scenes like that just wouldn't happen now. I don't know.
Why is that?
I don't know. I just said I don't
They
know.
got comfortable. They got complacent.
Yeah,
I don't think it's that. I just like, I feel like they're just, I don't know. Like this movie, a lot of people die and get hurt, and it's just like it's more real. Like people don't. I don't know. I think that the combat in this feels really good. There's some good gunfights. Like,
dude, we had George St. Pierre in this, and no one's brought it up yet.
George St. Pierre. He does a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is how you bring a UFC fighter into film, not Conor McGregor in Roadhouse.
Yeah. When is GSP there?
He's the one he fights on the boat where he's like, I thought you were more than a shield.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that was interesting. That was a good sequence. That starts off the movie.
Yeah.
That's a really good fight.
I remember there's a good set piece too. Like there's this one sequence like where they're inside, but then it seems like they're also on a ship as well. And I don't know if this set is actually on the ship, but there's like this one sequence where like Steve's on the right side of the screen and he's on the left side, and it's like a big open area, and you can tell that they're actually wherever they are, they're there, and it's just a perfect setting to just like have two dudes just beat on each other. It's really great. I just want to say it now before I forget when we talk about it in the next movie. I just think it's really interesting how Cap's skill is just hand-to-hand combat, really. And I love that there's one scene where Jarvis or the girl, whoever, Jarvis 2.0, whoever takes over for Jarvis when he becomes Vision, it's just like, you cannot beat Steve in hand-to-hand combat. You got to do something else. This guy will waste you.
Dan brought up something with the Winter Soldier. Feels like such a force, and it reminds me of the fact that, like, remember when you play a game and you play a final boss and he's hard as fuck to beat, and then you unlock him and they just like fucking nerf him. That's how Winter Soldier later in the MCU, you're like, what happened? He's not that same guy.
Yeah.
He's my favorite MCU character.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
Yeah, he is good.
I also just think, I mean, like, conceptually, he's such an interesting, like, foil to Steve because it just shows you, like, what Steve could become. And, like, based on, like, you have this, like, If you take that propaganda tool and then you like weaponize them and you just use them as a government, like how dangerous that can be.
Mhm.
And it also, I mean, everything around Steve to me is centered around, and we see this in Civil War. It's about like control and personal choice and deciding what's right and wrong and this and that. And like Bucky has all of that stripped away from him, and I feel like it just makes their dynamic that much stronger to see.
Yeah,
And also that the last action sequence in this with the helicarriers or whatever is just awesome.
Every action piece of this is so good. There's not one bad action sequence. There really isn't.
Chris Evans' bicep when he's holding that helicopter.
I was going to say that.
I'm like 80% sure I'm not gay, all right? But like
I have to say that was pretty crazy though, because he like goes from holding overhand to like
Flips it, yeah.
And me, I've been a strength and conditioning coach for 18 years. As soon as I see that, like his bicep would like explode.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure Chris Evans actually tore his bicep on set.
Yeah, you get.
Which is like
pretty
such a
that-
bad injury. That's crazy.
Yeah, which is also like how many action set pieces and great fights there are in this. That's why no one remembers George St. Pierre because of the elevator, the knife fight, all of it.
Oh, I forgot about the elevator scene, dude. I was like, oh shit, I forgot about this. I'm like, let's go.
It's good. It's so good.
It's so good. It is so good because you know what's gonna happen, and they just like slowly build it up with like more and more guys coming in, and it's like, oh shit, this is gonna get really, really cool. The more guys that come in, the better it's gonna be for the audience.
Yeah, and the thing with Cap, like I feel like Chris Evans really sells all the combat, and like he's just believable. And he's very, very dangerous. And like I feel like he probably killed like half those guys, to be real. Like I mean, like he does stuff to people. I'm just like, that guy's dead. Like his body can't.
You want to talk about him killing people? That opening fight in Civil War.
Yeah.
But I just looked it up, by the way. He did not tear it, but he seriously strained his bicep.
Wait, filming that scene or
the helicopter scene?
Oh, that's.
That'd have been cool if you could see it. That would really, they might have edited it, but that would have been cool if you could like actually see it.
Yeah.
I wanted to go back and touch on what Dan was talking about with the Winter Soldier being the opposite of Steve Rogers. Basically, it just shows what military power and propaganda, or whatever you want to call it, can be without ideals. That's essentially what happens. Captain America is an ideal, and the Winter Soldier is none of that. So it's like those two are just the opposites. It works perfectly in this film.
And that was a lot of the conversation about when Anthony Mackie was talking about Captain America and everyone shit their pants because he said it's not just about America. Like that's what he's talking about. Like it's not just about whoever's in charge. I'm mindlessly waving the flag and going wherever Commander X says I need to go. It's like, what do you actually stand for? You're not just a tool. You're not a weapon. You're a person.
Right.
And again, Civil War deals with that even more. But yeah, I couldn't agree more. And the idea of Shield just having being so split is really interesting here. And just feels like there's a lot of stakes. But do you really feel like the entire system is just rotten?
Yeah. I was going to ask you something that's probably historically accurate that happened, which is just a good plot point with how Hydra becomes even infiltrated, or how Shield becomes even infiltrated with Hydra. Did the U.S. actually bring in German scientists and use them? Dude, yeah, they did that, didn't they?
Our space program is because of Nazis.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Straight up. Yes.
Oh
yes.
Yeah.
Dude, the amount of people that got pardoned and just actual Nazi scientists that got brought to the United States and worked for our government, go look into that. And we did the same thing. The same thing happened with the Japanese. We talked last week about some of the stuff the Japanese were doing at Unit 731 and all that. All those people mostly got pardoned. 10 of those people got punished. And most of them were by the Russians because they killed so many Russians. But the United States basically said, give us your research and it's fine. What do you need that research for? I don't know, but it's I mean, the United States was very much built off of a lot of Nazi scientists. So,
We wouldn't have NASA without Werner von Braun. Period.
yes. Yeah, who was building rockets, like V2 rockets for the Germans. So, yep.
I want to
really,
say one flaw, but then also like a positive right after it. Not flaw, but just like something I noticed that wouldn't make sense. A plot point, not a plot point, but how did Cap get that flash drive into that vending machine?
there's a few things like that in this where I'm just like, sure.
He did like break the glass. He didn't stick his hand up there.
The
Like
guy
it's
was
just,
reloading the vending machine. He just slipped it in over his head.
but he wasn't reloading it. He just looked at it, right?
No,
There
there's
wasn't
a guy
someone reloading it. I don't think so. But I will say a
think so.
positive I like is that he looks like to find like to grab it again, right? To get it back. He looks in there and it's not there. And then the reflection on the glass in the vending machine, you see Natasha blow a bubble, which is the bubble gum that was in front of it. That is such a good visual like gag to be like, oh shit, like she has the flash drive without like saying it to the audience. That's just so smart. I just feel like stuff like little tiny things like that is just like lacking in like the MCU movies nowadays.
But what about the Apple worker coming back as new Master 69?
Wait, is that really him?
Yeah. It was
So
confirmed
that
in like a commercial or something.
okay, so new master. Oh, good lord, new master whatever is the dude that Thor was playing when he was fat, right?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a lot of movies.
Also, I just watched the scene. Connor, you were right. The guy is reloading the machine, so that at least makes more sense.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Wow, Connor. He's like, hey, can I sneak this in there real quick? Oh, I guess he just did it without him even noticing. But
Well, one other thing I wanted to say, like one other slightly goofy thing in this is I'm just like, especially for the entire Nick Fury sequence, where are the real police? Where's like the National Guard? Like, there's like a just full on like huge military assault on this guy, and none of those people are actual cops. So like, what? Where are the police? Like, you see one cop car at one point, he gets blown the fuck up by the Winter Soldier. That's
oh
the
yeah, I
only
do remember
cop
that. I remember that.
he's just like goodbye. But where are the police or National Guard? Like when the helicarriers are going up, where are like jets? Like
Hydra. Hydra's everywhere.
I mean, the helicarrier part, like maybe just because they think Shield is a government agency, like you wouldn't really question it if the FBI had a helicopter going up. I don't know.
If they're all just shooting each other.
yeah,
Well,
there would be
okay.
a military response to this.
Then there would be a military response. But like when they're just going up, yeah.
Like this is DC, right?
I'm just splitting hairs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's again, I don't care that much. It's a goofy ass movie, but I just sometimes was like, where are the cops? People with
I
assault
thought the same
rifles just fighting for 20 minutes, like. But that's all.
Dan, when you're talking about that one cop car getting blown up, I remember that because I liked what they did with that little sequence there because it just seemed thought out, which I think is just missing. I just think like the way scenes play out and where your camera is going is just not apparent in the new films. Like it's the fact that they have, they know this car is coming, they know it's going to blow up, right? They do it, they follow it, but then the camera keeps going and like Sebastian Stan is there, as the Winter Soldier, like walking towards the camera, like firing rounds. It's just a simple thing, but that doesn't happen in Brave New World. Stuff like that doesn't happen. And it's frustrating. I will say, similar to what you were saying about like where are the cops, the scene where I think it is where they are all trying to fight the Winter Soldier. It takes a long time for like all of Hydra to show up. Like it's kind of just like a fun thing for the audience to watch these three go at it. But in reality, there'd be Hydra there like so fast.
Also,
go ahead.
Black Panther.
What about Black Panther?
Black Panther. I love that they finally bring him in later on in the films too, in the Captain America films.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I say we can get in Civil War here. What do you have Winter Soldier ranked?
I think I got it 4 out of 5.
Connor?
I want to say one final thing. I think the most underappreciated scene and one of my favorites in Winter Soldier is the flashback to him and Bucky after after Steve's mom's funeral, and he's like really alone, and you see him and Bucky like and Bucky kind of gives him an apartment, or is like, you can stay here. That's one of my, I think, the most underappreciated scene in this, because it's a quick snippet, and I know you're going to say the CGI looks bad, Stone.
Yeah, I don't think it looks good.
I didn't get that sense. For me, it almost felt like it felt like a memory. And so like it was just kind of foggy and hazy because Steve doesn't remember it all. That's how it felt to me. I'm not saying I'm in the right here, Stone. Don't give me that look.
No, you're good.
But I had this at a 5-star.
4.5 for me, my friends.
I think there's only 2 5-star movies in the entire MCU, and this is one of them.
Ooh, okay, hold on. Connor, I've known you for a long time now. Hold on.
Infinity.
Dan, what do you have it ranked as?
What?
Winter Soldier, what's your ranking, my guy?
4.5. But Connor, do you think Infinity War is 5 stars?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, Dan was on that shit. He already knew. He's better than I am. But
You just
All right,
wanted the
boy.
dramatic build-up.
I mean, you two are always on the same page, and I'm always the outlier. So, just how it goes. But
Unless we're talking Annihilation.
Where did you have it, Stone?
4.5 as well. 5-star MCU movies? I don't know. I was a sucker for the first Guardians of the Galaxy. I really liked that a lot. I think it's better than. I think it's fine that the villain's just a dumb, like throwaway villain. I really like the Guardians of the Galaxy movies.
I think
I'm hopefully gonna go as Star-Lord for Halloween this year. That's my plan, because the one person I get compared to that I look like is Chris Pratt. That's the one celebrity. So I'm like, it'd be kind of sick if my wife gets painted green against Gamora. I think it'd be kind of cool and hot, to be honest. But I got to get in better shape. I got to have that scene of them dousing me in that red fluid that they have in that one time, and it's Chris Pratt's first, reveal. Like, hey, I'm Parks and Rec right now. So
That's fair.
I don't
Well,
want
That's
to.
your king
I
of
think-
green screen.
I think Ronan's a decent villain.
Okay,
He's okay.
he's funny. I mean, that humor really works for me. They're all really. I like it.
Yeah.
But
I think the best one is 3 and then 1, 2.
no, I don't like the villain. I mean, I don't know. I like. We don't have to get into that. We can do a Guardians of the Galaxy episode, maybe like a James Gunn episode when Superman comes out. But maybe we should talk about Superman.
I was
What
gonna say we
happens
should
if
probably do
Superman
Superman or DC for that.
I wanted to say though, because I noticed this when I watched Brave New World. A little tangent here. Does it bug you guys in the theater, like watching the aspect ratio change? Like it does for me sometimes, because especially it happens during action sequences,
Yeah.
which that's like the time for it to happen. It's really rare to have a movie that's fully in IMAX the entire time, but I'm excited because it looks like from the trailers, the entire most of the Superman movie is going to be in IMAX, which is really awesome. I'm really pumped for that. It does distract me. I don't know why, but it does. Especially with what was that, Transformers Age of not Age of Extinction,
The Last Night.
One of those, yeah.
That movie
I don't know
was
what Michael
bad.
Bay was thinking.
Uh,
But do you guys want to talk about Avengers? What do we call this? Avengers 0.5, 1.5, Civil War?
yeah.
I think more importantly than that, what side was everyone on?
With side? Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah. A lot of gray area.
When this came out, I was on Cap. I was on Team
I feel like you
Cap.
have to be on Cap's side.
I still am, I should say. But
What do you think, Charles?
I lean towards Cap's side. I will say that War Machine got on my nerves really bad in the film. Like, really bad. You broke the law, okay?
Yeah.
That's good.
I mean, he is the military industrial complex. Like that's what he is as a
Yeah.
character. So like,
speaking of, Stone was talking about the MCU's future. Weren't we supposed to get a War Machine movie or show?
That's not happening.
No.
Not a chance that's happening.
Armor Wars.
Yeah, did that get like scrapped or what happened there?
Yeah, it's not happening.
Okay.
I'm worried that Ironheart. Oh wait, no, they did show footage of Ironheart. Ironheart is happening. Sorry, I remember they did show footage of it, but that movie, show's been in the work for a long time too.
Well, another reason why I think I'm just guessing here, why they scrapped the War Machine show is because they revealed that he was control the entire. Why?
Yeah, I don't know how that would have worked.
Yeah, I just didn't understand how it worked. Everyone was up in arms, like boo, like they booed the show after that. So they were like, all right, get rid of it.
Wrote off Don Cheadle real quick.
Hey, maybe that's how he was able to change from Terrence Howard or Terrence Fletcher, what's his name, to Don Cheadle.
Terrence Howard.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, what a dumb move by him.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Wobbling over money, like all you had to do was take the ride, dude. Like
If you want to like just lose brain cells for 3 hours, listen to him on Joe Rogan's podcast. I was dying laughing the whole time.
By the way, Dan sent me that interview like months ago, like last year, and he's like, I thought this would brighten your day. And I went back, I'm not smart enough for this conversation. And I don't think Dan knew I was being sarcastic.
That was crazy. That to me, like, that just sums up the world today where you can just like say whatever the hell you want and just be like, yeah. And people will be like, yeah. Like that is what our media is today. Like it's insane. People like Joe allow that to be a thing. But
one time,
I mean, there's people that blindly follow everything Joe Rogan says. It is wild.
Yeah, and he doesn't have the knowledge to push back on anything that gets said on his show. So it's just like, what are we doing? But whatever, another conversation.
Which was one of the funniest things in his most previous stand-up, which did suck. But he was like, if you're getting your advice from me on anything, he goes, I'm a comedian and a fighter. He was like, what are we? He was like, I would not recommend anyone listen to my advice.
But even saying that ignores his impact, like, and ignores the responsibility that he bears with his platform. Like, he's a moron. I think to get back to the sides of this movie, it's really interesting because I think politically, like, there's so many ways to take this, and you can make multiple different arguments, but I think realistically, there's some element of rightness on both sides, and I think like I don't think either of them are necessarily right, but the argument and this really is a movie about the United States. Like, do we have the capacity to go wherever we want and do whatever we want in the world and intervene and decide where we should intervene and when we should intervene and what we can do? And when you look at the history of the United States, like, a lot of the stuff we've done in that realm has been incredibly detrimental to those nations and people. A lot of people have gotten killed because of what the United States has done. Have we done good? Absolutely. But I think, Vision kind of talks about something in this movie that's really important, and he basically says, our existence essentially invites challenge. Like, us being here invites people to step to us, etc. And we almost create threats by existing. I love Vision. I think Vision's the best character in the MCU. I'm glad he's in this, but I just think, like, Tony's right to an extent. Like, Wanda's actions kill a bunch of people. Obviously, if that bomb had gone off on the ground, people would have died anyway. But like, they were there legally. Like, they were in Lagos or whatever they were. Like, they weren't invited there. They weren't asked to be there. They weren't asked to intervene. They decided to go there, and people died as a direct result of that. So, like, it is necessary, but I think the ideal answer is to have, something like S.H.I.E.L.D. to actually have that oversight, to have an organization, and then maybe S.H.I.E.L.D. is then responsible to someone else. But, it shouldn't be just like the United States deciding when and where they go, and it shouldn't be, maybe necessarily the UN, but an organization has to have control over them because they are weapons. Like, Wanda's like so ridiculously powerful. Like, she can't just be able to do whatever she wants. And like, I think the most interesting way to think about it is people that feel like that picture themselves in this movie as a hero would be on Cap's side. People that picture themselves in the movie as like just a regular person would be on Tony's side, because they're like, I don't want to just be walking down the street and have like an alien dropped on my head by Tony. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, it depends how you picture yourself in that world. So I think it's very interesting, but I don't think there's easy answers.
Well put.
When you were talking about the like what Vision said was like our existence invites like challenge or like conflict. It makes me think of just like the nuclear war race, how everyone's just
Yeah.
trying to have the most powerful weapon they can possibly have and just be the most powerful country because other countries are building weapons. That's the exact same thing.
Yeah, I agree. And like again, we just talked about Oppenheimer last week. We talked about this exact thing, because the conversation becomes, this stops conflict and stops war until someone decides to build the bigger weapon, which was the hydrogen bomb, which is what Oppenheimer spent so much time fighting against after, the bombs were dropped. So, um, yeah, I think it's tough to really have just be on one side or the other, and that's again what makes the movie interesting because you can see both points of view, um, and they're both valid to an extent.
Can I say a hot take about this film? I love, and I think it really works. I love Black Panther's inclusion in this movie. I think it's really, really effective, especially with the United Nations, all meeting and Wakandans were in. I think they were in Nigeria, where that bomb went off, and there's Wakandans there, and they killed Wakandans, and it just makes sense, like introducing, Wakanda and the Black Panther War into this movie. I don't think Spider-Man works. I think it's a very big distraction. I get that everyone wanted to see Spider-Man. They really did. So there's a whole tangent of him and Aunt May's hot, and I mean Tom Holland is a very good Spider-Man. He really fits the character in my opinion. They're all their own, like very different. But he's unique. He's charming. He's just a likable guy. So and I think that's mostly what Spider-Man should be. But he's just there and then he's gone. And obviously they did that because they're going to, make Spider-Man Homecoming probably not long after this. I think maybe next year it came out. But I think that unfortunately, just introducing him in this way did him a disservice because it automatically tied him to Iron Man. And I don't like how Tony Stark takes on the uncle role. I wish Spider-Man could have been his own thing before he was introduced in the MCU, which is what I thought and what everyone thought was going to happen now with Spider-Man 4 with the ending of No Way Home with how that ended him going down to basics. But now I'm sorry for my French, that's not fucking happening anymore because it's stuck in between two Avengers movie. You're telling me they're going to do a grounded level Spider-Man film in between two Avengers movies when it's the only other movie they have? Not a chance. So I don't know. I wish he wasn't introduced in this way, but it makes sense. You got to have six people versus six people, and everyone wanted to see Spider-Man. So
Do you know where they got Spider-Man's backstory for the Civil War film and the subsequent films with Iron Man? They
as a comic,
yep, they took it from Ironheart storyline. She's Tony's apprentice. They essentially took that storyline, swapped Spider-Man in. And as I was watching it, I was like, why does this feel so damn familiar? And then I did research. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
I like Spider-Man in this a lot.
I
He
think a lot of
entertains
people
me the
do.
entire
That's
time.
a
Like when
hot
he's
take.
fighting Bucky, and he's like, "You have a metal arm? That's awesome!" Like just showing like the true like high schooler side of Spider-Man. He's cracking me up the whole time.
Like
Yeah.
Holland's great. It's just that most of his stories, like all three of them, if you think, no, not all three of them, just the first two heavily are just so tied to Iron Man. They're.
Even the third one.
I was saying how in the third one is he tied to Iron Man?
It's like the whole thing, like kind of in the beginning, like when he's like looking at the mural of Iron Man since he's dead at this point. I'm like,
And I think that's Far From Home, right? Because Far From Home took place after Endgame.
no,
Um,
was it? Oh yeah, no, it did. You're right.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, I thought the same thing,
Yeah.
but yeah, Far From Home came place after Endgame.
Yeah,
I think what I was gonna say just literally completely ran away from my brain. Apologies, everyone.
It's okay. I got another one. I don't like that Tony Stark is hitting on Aunt May. Now, I get why he's doing it. No.
I mean,
Visually, I get it.
Marissa Tomei.
Yes. But I would say he still is like supposedly a better guy, right? He is getting better. That's why he dated Pepper. He's not the playboy that we saw in 2008. But he's still like he has feelings for Pepper. I think at the beginning of this movie, he's like, "Yeah, me and Pepper are going through a rough spot." Then he's like, "Damn, fuck, Aunt May, what's up, dude?"
no, I think he said they broke up.
They're taking a break.
They broke up.
No,
Okay,
It's
what
not
is
the
this,
same thing.
Friends?
Breaks aren't real. We're adults. Let's be. I don't know. I mean,
Did Pepper
it's just
see
like
this
a
movie?
playful
That's all.
thing. I don't think it's that. Again, like Captain America thing. I don't think it's that deep. It's just like a little banter.
I'm respecting women on this podcast, my guy. You should just you stay true to who you're going after.
It's Gwyneth Paltrow. She's so
Shut
nice.
the fuck up. Shut the
Yeah,
fuck up.
it's Marissa Tomei over Gwyneth Paltrow
Stop.
any day of the week.
You got the goop and everything. I don't know.
This is Pepper Potts. This is not Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah. I'm glad it wasn't like a, because she ends up with Happy, or like, yeah, that ends up being a thing, which I like. I think that's a good dynamic. I think they break up.
No, I
Yeah.
think she just dies.
No, I think they break up before she does.
They go on a permanent break. Sorry to be dark there.
Maybe I need to revisit these Spider-Man movies and just stop speaking on them for today.
Yeah, it's a lot of movies, but Spider-Man, I love Black Panther in this. I think the way it ties into Wakanda is really interesting, and I think it's also interesting because thematically, like, Wakanda is this like isolationist nation that's trying to expand, and it's almost like they suffer as a direct result of that. Like, they've been so worried about like branching out into the world, and they try to put themselves out there, and their king literally is murdered. And I feel like that's just incredibly powerful when you think about it in that way. And at the same time, you have a villain with Zemo, who also is a direct result of the conflict of the movie. Like, the conversation the movie is having created him. I think Daniel Bruhl is great in this, and he it's another thing like where you can understand, like, you get sort of where he's coming from. Obviously not to the point of killing innocent people, but like, he feels like someone who has nothing left. He doesn't care. He doesn't care if he dies. He's just like, I'm gonna do this because I'm angry, and he has this rage, and he just wants to create chaos and create that anger in other people, which he does. And the last 20 minutes of this like make this movie so much better. Like, it's such a good sequence, and Robert Downey Jr., like, his acting from the moment he watches the hit on the screen, like, is just,
and it's just him in like a little suit too. That's all you see.
yeah.
I'm so happy you brought up Zemo because that's my favorite MCU villain by far.
It's a good pick.
He was good.
Yeah,
You know, voicemail from his son.
Yeah.
It hits especially hard on the end because you realize, like, oh shit. Like, after he explains, like, oh, I told my son, don't worry, the Avengers are coming, but his son's dead. And he listens to the voicemail one more time. You're like, even though he's bad, you feel for him. Like,
well, that's why I like him so much. Is one, he's just a dude. He's not like Thanos who could just fuck him up any way he wants. Like, he's just a regular guy who you can sympathize with because he lost literally everything. And he found a way to internally break them all rather than just like overpowering them with anything.
It's a really good plot twist too. Like, I think I was thinking about it. Probably the trailers ruined it 100%. They definitely showed, Iron Man, Bucky, and Cap having at it at the very end. I remember that was in the trailers. But if that wasn't, this whole like arc of like there was more super soldiers and like he's gonna go like unleash them, that seemed like a legit thing that if they didn't show that in the trailers, obviously the fight between the three at the end, I would think that would have happened. Like, I'm like, that seems like a very interesting thing that makes sense. and could be an interesting fight. Fits Captain America's, hand-to-hand combat thing. Let's do it. And then you're just like, oh shit, he didn't care about that at all. He just wants to break these people from the inside out as much as he can. He just goes there for the file, for the footage. That's the only reason why he goes there is for that footage.
How did Captain know that Bucky was behind all of that when in the footage where he kills Tony's parents? He asked him, "Did you know?" And he's like, "Yes." I'm like, "When did you know?"
Did Bucky maybe tell him? Because Zemo was asking Bucky about that date specifically earlier in the film. And obviously Bucky remembers a lot of what he did as the Winter Soldier. So maybe on the plane ride there, like he was like telling Cap, like, hey, this is what we're about to find out.
Oh.
Blah, blah, blah. It's just a theory. I'm not saying that's confirmed.
Yeah, but then that's kind of like, I just found out, not he knew and kept from the entire time. I mean, that's what was implied. I felt is that he knew, he didn't tell Tony. That's why Tony feels so betrayed. It's like, you have me trying to help this guy, help this guy, knowing you killed my parents. Like, why would you do that to me? You owe me the respect to at least tell me who he really is. At least that's what I got from it.
Yeah, I have no counter argument for you.
What do you guys think of these teams? Like, do you think they're balanced?
They have to be, right? That's like the fun part. So let's see. We got Vision and Wanda. Boom, there you go. You got Natasha.
Wanda's more powerful than Vision.
Huh?
Wanda's more powerful than Vision.
Okay, that's. I mean, Wanda is better than everyone.
Can kill every single one of them with very little effort.
Yeah.
Okay, that's as close as we got. How are we gonna do Wanda and Natasha? I've got to use Vision.
Yeah.
And then you have who's
Clinton.
The thing that's annoying is you have two Iron Men. That's the only annoying part about this whole thing. I guess Clinton and Natasha are similar, but it's not fun when you have two Iron Men. They should have just grabbed someone else.
I also just think it's hilarious that in this big fight, and when Ant-Man goes big, Spider-Man has the throwaway line about Star Wars, which makes Star Wars canon in the MCU. So how does he piece together Nick Fury and Mace Windu?
Damn.
That's deep.
Good question.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
Very good question.
Maybe Nick Fury was an actor.
Didn't even bring this up in Winter Soldier, but did you guys notice what Bible verse is on Nick Fury's headstone?
No.
Ezekiel
25:17.
Yeah. Good nod. Pulp Fiction.
Which there's also another whole fan theory out there that the briefcase in Pulp Fiction has, I think it's whatever the Yellowstone is. Is that Power Stone? So everyone's like, that's why Jules left the gangster life, was to go start S.H.I.E.L.D.
You know what's so funny is that theory is that Marcellus Wallace, that suit briefcase, had his soul. That has been a theory. So the fact that it's the soul stone makes it funnier.
Yeah, that's a good theory.
Huh.
Anyway, back to Civil War.
Does anyone else get really tired of this fight at the airport?
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
This might be a hot take. I think they should have killed Rhodey. I think he should have died.
It's so funny to me that out of everyone, he feels like the one person that would get hurt. He's unfortunately the least important person out of everyone. So yeah, let's just have him be, the one victim.
I feel like to drive home the point of the cost of all this bullshit, he should have died.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just think that would have really, really been impactful.
Mm-hmm.
And that
doesn't feel serious.
No, it's just a way to show off everyone's power. Basically, this is what it felt like.
Especially with Clinton and Natasha, we're still friends, right? LOL. What are we doing? This isn't engage. This isn't intense at all. It's just
what?
Flashing colors.
Yeah.
What, golf didn't suit you? Played 18, shot 18.
I do
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think I do I think a lot of the choreography is still good and I enjoy it. There are some good personal fight, the dynamic between T'Challa and Winter Soldier is good.
He's supposed to murder him.
Yeah.
T'Challa's just give me your head.
Yeah. I kind of wish he got introduced in his own movie. but I think they tried to rush a little bit with him and Spider-Man.
I will say that I liked his suit better in Civil War than I did in the movie Black Panther. I like that he put the helmet on. It wasn't like this thing that just comes, you know what I mean, the nanotech or whatever. And that's a little thing too, is that when he puts that helmet on, his voice changes. He puts it on and his voice drops like an octave because the muffled. Where with the other suit, it's just his voice. And I remember being in the theater going, he doesn't sound like Black Panther anymore. Which is, I mean, that's just me nitpicking, but I just noticed it.
Yeah.
I missed the era of MCU where like everything was real helmets and not everything was nanotech. Like Iron Man totally makes sense that he's got nanotech now because like that's been his thing in every movie he's in is he's developing more suits and learning and being better. But like everyone having nanotech suits.
Yeah.
Like I saw the trailer of Falcon in the Brave New World has a nanotech helmet now.
It's Captain America, not Falcon.
My bad.
You're good. It's basically
Captain Falcon has a nanotech helmet now or whatever.
Yeah.
I also love the scene at the very end with where T'Challa stops Zemo from shooting himself. That conversation, it's just a perfect way to wrap up this movie and tie together everything that's been happening. And the other thing I love, yeah. The other thing I love is Tony calling out that Howard made the shield for him, and he just drops the shield. He's like, basically like, okay, cool, like you can have it. I think that's such a good moment. It's a great fight.
Yeah.
It's like I wonder if like being in a theater with like a lot of people help me laugh at these movies more. Like I just feel like I used to laugh a lot more like at the jokes, like whatever the jokes were. One thing I do appreciate is whenever they do say a joke, a little bit different when it comes to, I guess, No Way Home. It has this flaw where it's like a sitcom where something happens and they like have a long pause for like the audience to applause. I'm glad there's not like when they make jokes. Obviously, the movie keeps going. So if there was jokes that I just didn't find funny and I missed, so be it. But there are some that were effective. I really like the fact that even though I don't like the Spider-Mans in this movie, I like that they haven't seen anything like Spider-Man before. So I think it's like it's Sam and Bucky are just like running away and they look up to their top left. They're like, what the fuck is that thing? Peter's just like crawling on a little glass. He's like, I don't know, man. They keep on grabbing people from everywhere. That's pretty good.
Falcon's like just taking him away while he has his web attached. He's like, you have the right to remain silent.
Tom's good. He really fits the character. He really does.
Yeah, I like some of the jokes in this. I like when after they take Spider-Man away and they're lying there, and Falcon's just like, "I hate you." I like their dynamic. I think it's funny. I don't know. I think that fight's too long, but
I also think Paul Rudd's really funny, and unfortunately, we don't get a whole lot of him. But I like that he freaks out about Cap, and then like Wanda's behind him. He's like, "Oh shit, yeah, no, you too. Yeah, you're cool too." It's just Paul Rudd's really, he's really charming. He's like Tom Holland. Tom Holland will be the same exact thing in like 25 years.
I'm not an Ant-Man fan at all. I just don't find it compelling. But
do you like Paul Rudd though?
Not particularly.
Okay, well. Oh my god. Well, learn something new about Dan every single episode. I really appreciate it. Who do you hate more, Paul Rudd or Gwyneth Paltrow?
Who do I hate more?
Yeah.
I don't hate Paul Rudd. Gwyneth Paltrow is like literally a snake oil salesman. Like, I hate her as a person.
What?
Goop, dude. Do you know what Goop is?
No.
You should just look up, go on your computer and type up Goop.
She literally is a snake oil salesman. She sells make-believe stuff for obscene prices to like suburban moms. It's rough.
God damn. $275?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I didn't really think that we would talk about Goop on this episode. Connor's just randomly going to post this clip. I'm like, Connor, what are we doing?
Hey, if they're selling it for net prices, maybe they can like, sponsor us or something. I don't know.
No. The other thing is, I think that's a little bit annoying about Tony in this is like he caused the entire problem, and now he's trying to like direct everyone of like what they have to do. Like you created Ultron because you could, and because you decided it was necessary because of the events of like the Avenger. Like you caused the problem in Sokovia, and then now you get to dictate to everyone else they don't have any freedom anymore. Like
Yeah, because that woman was sad.
yeah, it's just like a lot of hubris from him, which I don't know. I find it a little bit annoying, but at the same time, he does have a point to an extent.
It also might be one of my favorite Iron Man suit up scenes in this.
Oh, his little finger.
Yeah, I think that's so cool.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I just wish this was more. I mean, it is called Captain America: Civil War, so it's interesting trying to figure out the balance between is this a Captain America story or is it about Iron Man or what is it about? I guess, and especially watching all these movies back to back to back, which I watched them. I watched the fourth one. It was very interesting watching the fourth one and then watching the first three, or the first three because they're just so different. Like I said, the phases, like obviously in this, they've had a lot of miles. So, how many people are in this movie compared to the first Avenger or even Winter Soldier is just insane, just because they could do it. Um, but I lost my train of thought there. But I was gonna say, Dan, do you know what in the comics the original conflict is with Civil War? It's not this, right?
The Civil War comics have to do with like the X-Men a lot too. Like the Civil War is
Okay.
huge. Like it's
Okay.
like every character is involved. The Punisher is involved with Cap. There's like it starts out because I think there's two like low level villains or something that get killed and like it spawns the entire thing. But it's a much bigger thing. They kind of boiled it all down. Um, but it's very much about the same thing in terms of just like regulation and power and who has the capacity to make what decisions. And I think it's interesting with Cap because Cap understands that Cap is capable of making the right choices because he has a good moral compass, but he's not capable of seeing that not every hero is him. Like other heroes will need to be reined in, and other heroes will need, and someone like Wanda who is a little less stable or predictable, or and we obviously see that. But plenty of other heroes are not him, and he just thinks, well, because I know what's right, everyone will. So it's interesting, but it's a very. I mean, his stance here is very like libertarian and just like get the government away from me. I don't want any regulation. I don't want any. I have personal freedom, and that's what I want to keep. So.
Do you think there's a lot of development in his character? Like,
Yeah.
does his mindset change a lot from that, like throughout the course of the film? I know he does write that letter to Tony at the very end, but he just seems like he's really firm in his ways. Which I mean, his ways are. I think it's more of Tony changing, right? Because Tony sees like who's right. I think at the end of this movie, you see that like Steve's right, correct?
I don't
Something
think
that's
this
definitely
movie
out.
provides enough information. Like, this doesn't provide. There's no. I think what the movie shows is nobody wins. Like they're all messed up at the end of this movie, and with Rhodey getting hurt, like I think that shows like this is the call. Like it's just
That's true.
squabbling. And again, I think their actual answer is somewhere in between the two sides. But I don't think it gives you a concrete answer. It just shows you like the violence and the devastation, and their relationships are fractured, and that's what matters.
Yeah, I just wish this had more of an interesting like relationship to say between Bucky and Steve. It's more of just you get a lot of information on what happened to Bucky in this. Like you don't necessarily know what something happened to him in the Winter Soldier, but not necessarily what. So this gives you a lot of context to that. Um, and it is Bucky. It's just this, like I said, it's just the same from Steve, in my opinion. I think he's just really steadfast in his beliefs and his outlook towards Bucky, and that's what makes him honorable and admirable. Like that's why you like Captain America. He never really wavers at all. Like there isn't a single fucking thing that Bucky could do that Steve's just like maybe not. He's just always like, no matter what you do, my guy, if it's my mother you killed, I will still defend you.
Yeah, but that's not Bucky. That's the whole point. Like, it's not him.
But I would love to see just a little bit of I know that, right? Just a little bit of hesitancy, right? Because Steve, in my opinion, like at least when it comes to Bucky, has the same mindset the entire film. But it would be interesting to see him have an issue at some point, right? And to see a conversation like when like him actually taking it like seriously what he did, even if it's not him, and them just had like dishing out a conversation there about it even more. I don't know.
But why would you hold someone responsible for something they didn't do? And I think that's why he's so upset. It's like it's literally a black and white issue. Like, it just wasn't him. So like I just don't think like if he was out in a like if he was like killing a bunch of those guys that came in to stop them, like those German whatever they were, police or military, when they come, if he like killed a bunch of those guys, maybe then there could be a conversation. But
some of them for sure bit the bullet.
they're all right. They're tough. Yeah, I hear you though.
I do love how I forgot his name, but I do like that one Hydra agent comes back at the beginning of this movie for like 3 seconds. He's like, "Look at me now!" He's got like his little fists.
That's Frank Grillo.
Yeah.
Right, Frank Grillo. My bad, I forgot the actor's name, but I think his name is like
Romula or something.
What? Yeah, What is it?
He becomes Crossbones, the villain.
Crossbones. Oh, interesting name. Interesting name.
Romulo. Those.
That was his character.
I was thinking.
Yeah, I think it's funny that he's like, "I've been waiting for this," and then like 2-3 minutes later, he blows himself up. Like, wow, he literally knew that he wasn't gonna win. He's been waiting for it and had the bombs already placed on himself.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Oh goodness. But yeah, this isn't as good as Winter Soldier to me. I think there's just too much going on. I don't like how many characters. I wish it was more just Cap and Bucky, and I like you said, Dan, in the Winter Soldier there's 4 or 5 characters. All of them feel really fleshed out. And here there's just 12. And they're all battling kind of with the same thing, obviously with the Accords, literally divided in half. So the standouts obviously I think are Cap and, Tony, but then besides them, maybe Wanda and Vision, and then everyone else is kind of just like, eh.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. Hey, we got agreement here with Stone. I like it. I like where we're headed, guys.
Nice.
It's a good podcast. All right. Any last thoughts?
This is the second best MCU trilogy.
Oh shit. Okay, hold on. The best MCU trilogy.
I think
know
the
it
best
is.
is Guardians.
Okay. Yeah. I would 100% agree.
I don't think
The
there's a lot
trilogies
of
are Thor, Ant-Man, Guardians, Captain America,
Iron Man.
Iron Man.
I think that's it. Unless you want to count the Avengers movies, but like I'm not.
There's 4. There's gonna be 6 of them. This is wild.
I think the Iron Man movies are really good except for 2, but
Iron Man 3 is
I'll let you know. I'm about to get to 3, so
Iron Man 3 is so good.
Yeah, Iron Man 2 is
actually I just watched 2 last night. It's better than I remember, but like still not great.
it has some good moments. Like Whiplash is just a little ridiculous.
stupid character.
I want my bird. Would you guys rate Civil War?
3.5.
I have a 3.5.
I had it at a 3.5, and I ended up giving it a 4 just because I love the last 20 minutes so much. But watching that fight scene, I was like, "Oh my god, this is 40 minutes of just."
I have it at a
nothing
4.5.
Okay.
4.5. That's all right.
Yeah,
So, Spider-Man.
3.5, 4. It was like thematically, it's a really good movie. It's interesting. But
Well, also Black Widow failed because in this, when she's fighting the Winter Soldier, not Bucky, she literally says, "You could at least remember me." Because apparently there's some like storyline. I don't know. I didn't read the comics where like Winter Soldier like helped train the KGB or like whatever Natasha was brought up in. So I wish they would have brought him into Black Widow.
They could maybe do that in Thunderbolts because obviously he's going to be with Natasha's sister. In that could be something. Maybe.
Yeah.
I think it would be a smart move. Also, Sebastian Stan's like, it's gonna be interesting because they're gonna go in the past. Well, I'm guessing. So I think this is a stupid question, but whatever they did to him made him like not age, right? They just kept on like
They,
freezing him in cryosleep over and over again after he was done with his missions.
He basically has like the super soldier serum.
yeah, I'm pretty sure they gave him this serum.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he stole.
That doesn't make him not age, though, right? The reason why Steve didn't age was because he was frozen in ice.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, technically, when Winter Soldier wasn't out on missions, they were like Cairo freezing him almost.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you saw all the other super soldiers. They had them all. All of them were in chambers, so I imagine they were putting Bucky.
The serum just like slows down his aging. He still ages, but it's slower.
Yes. The first Avenger, Steve, could not grow the beard that was in Infinity War. There's definitely some aging up right there. For sure, for sure. But
Yeah.
Connor, I'm curious. Are you going to stay for our conversation of Brave New World?
I'm gonna peace out. Let you guys enjoy it. I want to form my own thoughts. I already saw Dan's one video, so I know how he feels.
Straight to the point.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Charles. What did you think about this? I guess I'm interested to hear your thoughts.
This movie is very heavy-handed in what it's trying to say about the American landscape at the moment, and they're trying to sway you in a certain direction. At least that's the way I felt, and I rolled my eyes every single time. Like, oh, you can't be held by your past, and the president isn't who they used to be, and he's the president right now. And I'm going, what the fuck is this? Like, I know what you're doing, and it's really annoying me. I'm like trying to enjoy my gummy bears and my drink here. You're pissing me off. It was pretty rough to get through. The exposition throughout is like overly explained emotions, and oh my god, man.
I think what was absolutely detrimental to this film was Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I think it is a show that came out 4 years ago.
Yep.
That I'm not gonna remember what happened to a show 4 years ago that had one season. Like they didn't even have a second season, right? So then you have all of this, I guess character development, this chemistry that developed between Sam Wilson and Joaquin Torres, but I don't remember it. And they're just like buddies, and they're just buddies the entire time, and there's no actual conversations that happen between them. And then you have a sequence, spoilers, if we're gonna spoil this movie, it doesn't matter because y'all fucking saw the ending in the trailer, so it doesn't matter. You have the scene where he's like, on life support, intubated, and you're just like, first of all, I don't care. Second of all, he's gonna be fine. And it's crazy because we've had a scene like this in a Captain America movie. We had it in The Winter Soldier with Nick Fury, and we liked Nick Fury, and we connected with Nick Fury. And the scene that he is like, injured and dies is really effective. And I'm just like, I did not feel, I know Nick Fury is gonna be fine, but just the way they framed that, and how much I love this character. It's just the acting. I know it's just Samuel L. So it's hard not to like him, but I just didn't feel that at all there. And there's zero, in my opinion, zero real characterization for Sam that we just haven't seen before. It's just him still, trying to accept responsibility as Captain America. That's just, I think that's just it. I'm not Steve Rogers. I'm my own guy. And what you got that though in the show. Right? It talks about Sam's family. Like goes like he's in Louisiana, I believe, and like it goes really deep into it. That's not existent here at all. And then you have people who didn't even watch the show. So you have two issues. You either have to completely not abandon, but not even address all that because we did give him character in the show, or you have to do exposition.
Right. Well, to add that too, what happened?
But then that's exactly what they have to do with Isaiah Bradley's character, right? Because Isaiah Bradley was introduced in the show, but your audience is not going to know who that is if they didn't watch it. So you have Joaquin Torres, who hasn't met Isaiah Bradley, come in and be like, hey, man, no way. It's the dude who was like, who was a super soldier, but they got imprisoned. And like, oh, yeah, you. I'm like, okay, that's for us. That's for us to know. That's not a natural conversation.
Well, they did an even worse job with that. You take it back even further. They're taking from the Hulk and bringing it into the movie too, which
Most dumbest decision.
2008. So now you're like, if you don't know anything about Peter, you know, Stearns, and you're just like, what happened? The gamma tripped on this guy. I said, who is he? Where did he come from? Oh, he's from a movie from 17 years.
It's so fucking stupid.
Literally 17 years ago. You're like, I don't remember this. You know,
I guarantee there are a lot of kids that are watching this that have never even thought about watching that movie.
Yeah.
Really odd. Charles, did you watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
Yeah.
Show? Okay.
Oh no. You mean the Falcon Winter Soldier? Yeah.
The show. Yeah. So if I'm looking at the story of this, the interesting thing to do with this movie is what you did in the show. Why did they do that in the show? And like everything with Isaiah Bradley was awesome. And the idea of a black man getting this serum and then the United States essentially experimenting on him and treating him like shit is great. And it would have been a perfect thing to have in this movie. And I'm not going to remember the hold on, I'd like to look up the actor's name who plays Isaiah Bradley.
Carl Lumbly.
Yeah, I think he's awesome, and I love the character of Isaiah, and I even liked seeing him here. But there's so much like heft to that story, and it could have made an amazing movie to introduce Anthony Mackie. And instead, this is such an odd movie. And Charles, you touched on it, but like he essentially says, "Why the hell would I want to go to the White House when this is what the government did to me?" And then Anthony Mackie goes, "Oh well, it's still an honor to meet the U.S. president. It's so powerful and important." Like, what type of bootlicking ass movie is that? And it doesn't even give you a like. It's not like he says that and then it's flipped on its head.
Right.
Like it says that, and then at the end it's like, and then the president, who's a complete asshole and like probably a war criminal, realized he's not the right man for the job, and he accepted his time in prison, and everything's honky dory. Like, what a weird movie. And you know what this movie should have done, and what I thought it was going to do. This should have been President Ross was part of everything. He faked the assassination attempt, was part of all this, manipulating the entire situation to be able to steal the adamantium. That's a good movie. And it still would have been very similar to what we've seen before, but it's an interesting movie. And then you get to see like that attitude that he has towards the government and the president, whatever, like as a detriment. And like, you know, it can kind of be a similar thing to what Cap went through with the Winter Soldier. Also, they're acting confused that there was like an activation of someone through music that obviously played when Winter Soldier already happened.
Right.
Why are you acting confused?
Right.
We've seen this happen before.
Right. As soon as I heard the
Those
music.
tactics are so boring.
Yeah.
And it's just like everyone in this world would understand what happened immediately.
Right. Well, I mean, in the theater, when the music started playing, I was like, why is the music playing? Something's about to happen. And then it happens, and I go, oh, okay. But then I'm like dumbfounded that they didn't figure it out. They're like, we got to go through the footage. We got to go look at the security cams. I'm like, what the fuck?
Mind control is just so boring. It's such a boring thing. They're being mind controlled by lights. Like, what are we doing here?
And this villain, like the leader, whatever. What the hell? This dude just teleports around. He's just on a military base, giving some guy a heart attack, standing there in front. Like, shoot that man in the head.
Right.
Like, how does this guy? He's just walking around the movie doing whatever he wants.
Yeah.
Like, it's so stupid, and he looks so ridiculous. Like, I'm so tired of these stupid ass, goofy villains that just like. Again, he's from a movie that was so long ago. Really odd, just a weird movie.
I know a big part of this as well, and you guys probably noticed this because it's so noticeable, was that Giancarlo Esposito, that was all like reshoots, like all of it. He was added to the movie. Like he was not in this film to begin with. And there's like a big, just watching these other Captain America movies, there's like an action scene, right, between Sam and what's his character's name? Seth, or Sidewinder, I guess is his character's name. It's not good. It's just it's real boring. It's just them shooting between two cars, and then they go to like a junkyard, and then there's a little bit there, and that's it.
Yeah.
And there's two reasons for that. I just think the movies have changed, but then it's poor planning. You cannot do, he's a villain in a way, kind of. No, because he's kind of redeemed at the very end, but whatever.
He still
But
threatens
you
to.
cannot even you can't even try to have a good action set piece because you don't probably have the actor there for that long. You just added him.
Yeah.
He's probably, as you call us, a busy guy. He's done a lot of stuff.
Yeah. God, it was just brutal to get through. And what Dan was touching on was the whole, the president is still an honor. And then the line delivered where she, what's her name? Was she playing?
Ruth Bat-Saraf.
Okay, her. She says a line that pissed me off. She goes, well, you can't be held by your past. People are allowed to change. Something to that effect. When they're talking about the president, I go, what are you pushing right now? What are you pushing right now? And then Bucky, like, look, Bucky's a good character, but he's a congressman now. And everyone knows that he was a Winter Soldier and that he killed all these people and he was a mind-controlled agent, but he's going to be a congressman for the United States now. It's kind of one of those things where you're like, what are you saying? Like, what are you trying to get us to believe about our own government? Like, all art is political. So what are you pushing on me right now? It just made me feel very like, oh, man.
Yeah, and I mean, I literally was at a complete loss for words at what they did with that character, because they literally did reshoots to change. Like, she was gonna, like, Ruth Bat-Saraf is Sabra. They're the same person. Mm-hmm. The character of Sabra in the comics is like a racist who hates Arabs, and that's like something that they play with. And like there's like conversations in the comics, but they weren't going to use her in that way. They're going to use her as an actual hero. And then they did reshoots to change that, but then they still have her name as they don't change her name. She still is Sabra. She's the same person. All they did was take away the suit and take away like the Mossad background, because she's a Mossad agent. That's who the character is. But now instead of Mossad, she's an Israeli Black Widow. Right. And they still make a point to say that. Mm-hmm. When the United States government's been working with Israel to do what they've been doing, it's unbelievable. Yeah. That they did reshoots and just left her the same person. And then there's this 4-foot tall, 90-pound human being beating up grown people.
That's all that.
And I'm sorry, I a lot of people use that complain about, like, women in movies like this. I think a lot of that's bullshit. Like, and I think people don't understand. Like, I've trained Muay Thai and stuff like that. I've seen women fight. Women can beat the shit out of men easily. This person is so goddamn small. This is the first time I've ever just been like, man or woman, this person is just too small to do anything they're doing. It looks ridiculous. This looks like you have Mickey Mouse running around there fighting. Like, it's silly.
Yeah.
And she doesn't look like someone who knows how to fight. Like, no. you watch like Scarlett Johansson. She looks like someone who's trained.
Yeah.
Who could actually like do the stuff she's doing. Like, it makes sense. This is just so ridiculous, and she can't act. So why is she in this movie, and why is she on the screen so much?
She's in the movie so
big
much.
Part of the story. Why?
Oh.
Like, it's so. And I've gone on too long, but like, even the character, man. Like, the year after the character of Sabra was created, in a place called Sabra in Lebanon, there was a massacre of 3,000 people by the IDF and by Christian militias in the Lebanese civil war, which is what Ansandi is about, which is, as soon as, like, moving forward in history, you have to understand that context, that she will be associated with that, right? Like, so to have that character in a movie still is just, again, unbelievable. And I'm not going to say anything else about it. It really just turned me off to this, and that's how I feel. So,
yeah.
I think, like, when we look at the Winter Soldier, like you were saying, I want to speak about the fact that her character has, like, nothing interesting about her at all. At all. She is an object on a chessboard to move to the end of the game, which is the end of this movie. That's all she is. She is to drive the plot forward. That's the only reason why she's there. She's there to spill exposition to do action scenes, right? But it's the fact that there's not really a core group of people here. There's Anthony Mackie, there's Danny Ramirez, and maybe her and Harrison Ford, right? Those are four people that are like the big players of this movie. Maybe Carl Lumbly, Isaiah Bradley, but he's in prison for I don't know 2/3 of this film. The fact that Winter Soldier was able to make you invest so much in five people, right? And this film is just unable to do that. It's baffling to me. And everyone has said this, and it's the truth. And we haven't even spoken on it yet. The fact that they were so dependent on Red Hulk, that is the selling point of this movie. You will see this guy, he is on all the posters. This is the reason you should go see this movie. Not Sam, to be honest. We're not going to just have our Captain America on one single poster by himself. Not really. I mean, I think they did have some, but none of the big posters, right? You got to have that. You got to have that red fist coming in, right? And everything that they showed in the trailer is the fight. There's not a single moment. The thing lasts for 4 minutes.
No.
We saw it all. We saw everything. So I'm like, what is the point of going to this film? There's nothing new here that you haven't seen before. It's all poor.
Yeah.
All of it is poor.
Well, it just feels like a cheap sequel to the Incredible Hulk from 2008 with splashes of Falcon and the Winter Soldier thrown in there. It's not even a Captain America movie. As I'm watching it, I was thinking to myself, this would have been better as a 5-episode miniseries where they could flesh out different plot points within the film, because it just felt like a jumbled mess. And it almost felt like it started off as a TV show, and they were like, like it was supposed to be season 2 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and they went, let's make it a fucking movie. That's what it felt like to me, and it just did not.
I wouldn't be surprised if that happened, because their plans have changed so much. I mean, that's what they're doing with, like, think about the Lilo and Stitch movie. It was supposed to be a Disney Plus movie. Yep. And they're like, damn, fuck, what am I talking about? Moana 2. Moana 2 was going to be a TV show. And they're like, it made $1 billion, I think. That's just, it's wild that they can just do that. And I thought, I've already mentioned it, but I really like that this happened to me. The fact that those people did sit next to me and were like asking me questions about how I like the movie. Because obviously they're super fans. And I don't consider myself a critic, but there's reasons. I try to give good reasons about why I don't like the things I do, right? We talk on the internet for a living doing that. I think it's idiotic. Like Dan said, people are snipping people's reviews of, I didn't think it was that good. Okay. You just choose those 2 sentences. What came before it? Did they give reasons of why they think that way, right? So I told them it was I thought it was sad because if there's any jokes here, they really don't land. My theater was pretty quiet. You know, the one time my theater got loud wasn't when Red Hulk was on there. No. It's when Bucky came. That is the one moment that my theater cheered and laughed at a joke. And I told these people straight up, I said, it made me sad that the one time that people were excited for this film, that you could audibly hear people like cheering, where they're pumped to watch this movie, was when someone that's not even important comes in. Yeah. They're not even important to the story. And it's so crazy that they're just kind of out of options, right? When it comes to just cameos, they're like, we've got to have cameos, right? That's what these movies are. That they add Liv Tyler, and I'm sorry, like you said, there's children who don't give a shit about the Incredible Hulk movie. No one gives a fuck about Liv Tyler. I'm sorry. It's just the truth.
Dude, like 2 people clapped when she came on the screen. I literally looked around the theater like, who is clapping right now? And like the lines they give her, she's literally like, I should have reached out to you after the assassination attempt at the White House. I'm just like, you're talking to your dad and you're going, the assassination attempt at the White House. He's the president. Why are you even clarifying at the White House? Like it's just stuff like that where I'm just like, this is just written for morons. Like, this is just, I don't understand. And like so much dumb stuff happens in this movie. Like even at the adamantium, at the what are those things called?
Celestial.
Celestial. This celestial thing with the big like Cuban Missile Crisis standoff thing there. Like those 2 jets go rogue and start shooting at the Japanese fleet. Those things would be shot down in like 15 seconds. Like the U.S., why would the U.S. Navy just shoot them both down immediately? It's so stupid. Like they just let them fly around and continue attacking everyone. Like so there could be a moment of action for Falcon and Captain America. It's just like this just feels dumb. And if you're gonna make this like grounded Winter Soldier rehash, make it actually feel that way. I don't know. And like there was some stuff I liked about this movie. But it's a lot of silliness and like it's very convoluted. It feels written by a lot of people and just kind of it feels like it was reshot a lot and it's just a mess.
Six people.
And I like Anthony Mackie and I like Anthony Mackie's Captain America, which some people might not say, but like that's not my problem with the movie. My problem is like the movie he was given to work with, and coming off of movies that had with Civil War and Winter Soldier, movies that had a lot of bite and something to say. This movie is just spineless in every single way. There's no spine. There's no backbone.
People thought it was going to be like a return to like the political like thriller side of like the MCU. I don't know if I was supposed to focus when it came to that. Focus on Thaddeus Ross and his dilemma and his character and the dilemmas with the country of a president being like that. Like you said, Charles, it's a little annoying that it's like we can forgive him kind of a thing. But I was more focused on this dumb treaty and like it's just the fact that if I understood it correctly, Thaddeus Ross is just trying to make sure that these nations are just nice with each other when it comes to harvesting this adamantium.
Yeah.
They're just trying to make sure everything goes to plan and like we all agree we can have some adamantium and that's about it.
Here's the thing though that they're leading to.
Is that it?
Well, it's the Japanese that want the adamantium too. Remember the treaty? That they're so focused on the Japanese. There's all these other countries signing the treaty, but they're so focused on the Japanese government doing it because in the comics, I don't know if they're going to go this route, but a Japanese scientist is the one that puts the adamantium in Wolverine. Just so you know, like in the movies, it's William Stryker, but in the comic, it's a Japanese scientist that does this. So it's just interesting. I kept going, are they about to introduce the X-Men? Like they're trying to put all the pieces together to like have the X-Men come in.
Also, it's like, where is this? Where in the world is the Celestial located?
Yeah, I don't know. This is
I thought it was in the Pacific Ocean, close to like the Asian continent. Why is the United States even dictating what happens with this?
Right.
Like, I don't even understand that aspect of it.
I don't know. I will say though, one thing I want to like talk about in a video I might do to promote this episode is Harrison Ford's getting a bag right now, man. Good for him. He's like 82.
Yeah.
Which is wild. And if you think about it, he was in Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and this. Yeah. And dude is, what else is he in? Shrinking, like an Apple TV Plus show. And then he's also in like one of the Yellowstone spinoffs. Man is making bank. And he's just like a hard worker and just he continues to chug out. And luckily, he's such an iconic actor that what he did in the 80s, besides this movie, obviously with Indiana Jones and Star Wars, has just like come back and he's able to get more money from it.
Yep.
It's in the middle of the Indian Ocean. Why is the United States dictating any of this? Like what even why?
Well, isn't there like a moment where they mention the Soviet Accords? Like there is one split. It feels like the Soviet Accords, right? Like the United States shouldn't have their foot into certain international dilemmas. I don't know.
Yeah. And then Thaddeus Ross just wants everyone to sign this treaty. And really, if you really think about it, it's for selfish reasons. It's so to show that he's changed. So it's not really for the good of everyone, for his own legacy, so that he is remembered as a good person, not a piece of shit person. So really, he hasn't changed at all. I mean, at least the way I look at it. He's the same guy.
No, I don't find him to be remotely likable.
No.
I think it was a good performance from Harrison Ford.
Oh yeah.
Some people said that Danny Ramirez was annoying. I liked him. I didn't think he was annoying. I thought he was someone who felt like a new hero who had like that energy of like it was still exciting and he hadn't seen horrible stuff yet. I liked him, and I liked his dynamic with Falcon or with Anthony Mackie, because it felt very similar to when he was looking up to Steve. Like, it's just that admiration of this person's been there and done that, and I want to learn from them. I like that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's tough, and obviously, like, that one aspect of this movie, I just couldn't get past.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was just they took the time to reshoot and didn't change anything, which is really frustrating. It's like, well, that was a waste of time and a waste of.
No, and it's like, what was it like before you reshot it? Like, was she in the full uniform? Like, what did that movie look like? I kind of want to see that.
Yeah.
And you know what? If they had guts, they would have just left her as Sabra and used it as a chance to have an actual dialogue about the character. Because again, the character in the movie is there to have, or in the comics, is there to have a conversation and like be engaged with. So, but whatever. I don't want to keep going on it, but I was just good on it.
Yeah, it was a pain. It was a pain to watch, man. I couldn't. I'm sitting there. I'm trying to enjoy. I enjoyed some of the action. Like, oh, this isn't bad. CGI was surprisingly, I thought, pretty good with the Red Hulk. I thought it was okay.
It wasn't bad, yeah.
I will say after they decimated those blossoms, the cherry blossoms, that whole scene, and the street is all messed up and the trees are all lying around. It looked like a video. That one scene, though, I was like, whoa, this looks like PS4. It was odd. But I mean, the thing that killed me too is the way they kept over explaining the way we should feel throughout the movie. It's like you said, Liv Tyler's like, I'm sorry I didn't show up at the assassination attempt at the White House. Dad, I saw what happened. Are you okay? We would understand that. Like, why do you have to over explain anything? It just felt like I was watching two AI chatbots talking back and forth. It's weird.
And again, the beauty, like we just talked about with Civil War, is it doesn't explain to you how you're supposed to feel or what side to take.
Right.
Like, that's the beauty of a lot of good movies. Yeah.
I hate to say these movies feel more and more AI. I hate to, like, just put it in like a computer system. Hey, we want a story about 2008 Incredible Hulk. Include the Red Hulk. Include Sabra. Include obviously Sam Wilson, and maybe throw in the Celestial that we've talked about before. See what we got. Adamantium. There's adamantium now. That is the hardest thing. The Celestial.
Right.
Do you know in the comics where did Stryker get? You cut out for a second. I heard you talk about Stryker, Charles. I don't know if you said this or not. Pardon me if you did. But where did the adamantium for the claws come from for Wolverine?
So a Japanese scientist put them in Wolverine. William Stryker is just put into the comic books. He is a character, but into the movies. He is a character in the comics, but in the movies they used him as the scientist that put it in Canada. But that's not actually how it happened. They hired a Japanese scientist that Wolverine kills. I can't remember. I think he killed him inadvertently by destroying the lab. He dies in the explosion. And so his daughter gets revenge on Wolverine, and her name is Lady Deathstrike. And she goes through a similar procedure as to become enhanced herself. If I'm remembering correctly, I'm almost positive that's how it goes.
I guess my question is, where do they get the adamantium? Is it always been from Celestial?
No. The scientist creates it. I'm almost positive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So when they said, the Celestial has adamantium, I'm like, okay, well, clearly this thing pops up in the Eternals. They have to explain why it's still sitting there in the ocean. Oh, we're going to tie adamantium to it. It's basically what they did. And it's like, it just feels so cheap and jumbled, and they're just and the thing I don't like what the MCU is doing is they're trying to make every single thing fit into one world. It's like, what I would rather see do is just make X-Men movies without any tie to anyone. And just let that be that. But they're going to make them tie to Avenger Part 10 or whatever.
I think it's hilarious that they can use the multiverse as like a scapegoat. Like, it's like the Fantastic Four is not going to have a thing to do with anything because it's its own universe. I was like, that's smart, you know. Don't talk about anything else.
Yeah,
Which, by the way, I can't wait to hear Ralph Ineson as Galactus. I just love Ralph
oh,
Ineson's
I
voice.
love his
I
voice.
can't wait.
He's so good. One thing I hate about the first thing though is that they can always use it to tie up any loose end that makes sense. Like it erases all stakes, pisses me off. It's like, oh, Tony died. Well, he's back as Doom because he's a variant from another dimension. Like, fuck's sake. Just deepens everything. MCU has shoehorned themselves into this multiverse thing where they can't pivot out of it in any way. It's just
It's like a Pandora's box that they opened and now they can't close.
they can't close it. It's just like, man, so where do you go from here? It's they don't make good movies. They've gotten too overly complicated that it has convoluted everything. So now you just don't give a shit.
Getting Avenger movie 1 year from now. Don't know how.
Secret Wars.
Jeez.
And
Yeah.
Secret Wars that's where Spider-Man gets his Venom, the symbiote. In the comic, he actually just wore a black suit and everyone hated the leaders of the black suit, so they made it a thing later on. Oh, it's actually a symbiote from Moon Rock and blah blah blah. But that's how he got it. He got in this Secret Wars, but who knows if they'll go that route because we've already gotten 3 shitty Venom.
Dude, I'd love to see Tom Hardy pop up in Secret Wars. I think that would be so fucking funny. he's like, he's like, what is Spider-Man doing here? He's just looking, holy fuck, it's a celestial. That would be really funny.
I hate Venom's voice in the comics. I hate it. Or in the movies, I'm sorry. I hate it.
So Secret
But
Wars
if you take that and you add it to Secret Wars, it'd just be really funny.
Secret Wars is May 2027, and then Doomsday is May 2026. So we'll get Doomsday in a year,
Doomsday comes out.
year and a half.
And Spider-Man 4 takes place in between those.
No, boy.
Oh boy. We just said oh boy at the same time. We were
off. But well, not really. But we're talking about what's his name? That's playing Galactus.
Ralph Ineson.
Yeah. What's his name from? Nosferatu.
Willem Dafoe.
No. He played the husband.
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
No.
Nicholas Hoult. Yeah.
Who?
Nicholas Hoult.
Yes, Holt. He talked about sitting. He said that while he was talking next to him, his voice was vibrating in his chest. When they were doing a read at the table, he was like, it was so crazy. Every time he talked, my chest would vibrate. He's like, what the fuck? Man, he has a cool ass voice, man.
Not to be weird, but I would pay for that. Like, I love Ralph Ineson's voice. I wish his voice could vibrate my chest.
Yeah, man.
Great voice.
What did you have this rated as, Charles? I know what Dan has it rated as.
Yeah, me too. I don't have it quite that low, but I have it at 1.5.
I also have it. I had it at a 2, and I was just like, man, this really sucks. I brought it down even lower. It's not as bad as Flight Risk, I will say. Flight Risk was rough, but
I didn't even bother.
Can I ask one last question about this?
Yeah.
Did you guys find the assassination attempt scene confusing? Because I thought the way that was shot, I thought that the little Mickey Mouse lady was part of the plot. Like, she seemed like she was part of the assassination attempt. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. And then that's why, like, I literally thought it was going down a route towards, like, the whole government and like the president and his team being part of this. And I was on board. I was like, okay, I'm interested. Yep. And then it's just like, nah, she's a hero. Like, I was.
No, Dan, you aren't alone. I literally thought she was part of it too. So then when she started fighting, I'm like, wait, who is she fighting?
Yeah, no, it was a badly shot sequence.
I was like,
really bad.
And then I realized, I'm like, oh no, she's protecting the president. Like that all through my head. But I'm on board with you. I really thought that she was part of it as well, and I thought that would be interesting. Yeah. But that almost feels like a reshoot. Like
I was just saying, I think the obvious answer is that there was a scene cut that showed like her relationship to Ross, because I don't think we get that beforehand. So there had to be something beforehand that establishes actually who her character is and what her part is to play in the role of, Ross's cabinet. So I think that was 100% cut from the film. That way it just confused all of us. And instead we have a lot of shots of iPhones. The iPhones are very distracting in this, by the way. There's a lot of shots of iPhones, but yeah, I was very confused. It seems like a scene was removed.
I feel like almost like they rewrote that story, that her part of the story, and that she was supposed to be in on it. And they're like, oh, we got to change that. And they changed it. That's what it felt like, honestly. You cut out, Dan.
Sorry, I was muted there. I'm just saying I would love to know what that looked like, but we'll never know, I guess.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be an asshole here, but I'm going to be. Carl Lumley is 73 years old. I thought it was very goofy how Sam Wilson was trying to chase him down. he's an older gentleman, and he's like running through the streets. I was like Sam, you can't catch up to him. I mean, I know he's a
No, he
super
has the
soldier.
serum.
Yeah, but I think he was actually probably doing his stunts himself. But I don't know. I just thought it was, it was kind of funny that he couldn't catch up to it. He looks good though for 73.
I was about to say, for 73, man, he's a beast.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
Yeah.
I thought it was weird though. Like, I think someone said this, which is absolutely true. I think the set designs of this are very poor. I mean, when you see Giancarlo Esposito for the first time in that random building, and there's nothing that stands out about it, and then the ship. It's like the inside is just your standard ship, and the outside is just complete green screen. The White House, nothing. There's no set that stands out. The one that did, which was really weird, was it seemed like they walked into like LA Fitness when it came to Carl Emily, where he was working out. There's like all these like neon lights, and I was like, I don't know what setup this guy has, but it seems very interesting for a man his age. But I respect it. It seemed like you're walking to like an Under Armour or something.
Right.
But whatever. Yeah, we can stop talking about this movie now.
Yeah, it was bad.
All right, Charles, you watch a lot of movies, my friend.
Yep.
A lot of movies probably that our audience hasn't seen. What is the one that you would recommend?
That I would recommend.
Mm-hmm.
What is something I watched recently? No, you know what? I can tell you what not to watch. There's a bunch of movies that I watched that I would not recommend because I've been watching so many duds lately. Don't watch Acid Love unless you are just like into gratuitous violence against women and people. It has a point in the end, it does stick, but it's a terribly horrific movie to see. And two, don't watch The Corn Shucker. That is dude. It's from 1997. It was on Screenbox. I was like, let me watch this. This seems interesting. It got 6 out of 10 on IMDb somehow, and it is easily one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. So if you're a horror scanning through Screenbox, avoid The Corn Shucker, no matter how intriguing it is. It is fucking horrible.
Okay, I will not watch this. I will not watch The Corn Shucker. Point taken. Stone, do you have a movie?
Yeah. I mean, mine's really common, but it's a new movie to me. So I feel like if it's a new movie to me, it might be a new movie to other people. And I know Dan's very familiar with it because he recommended it to me. I watched American History X for the first time.
Oh, so good.
I didn't know, obviously, from the poster, I knew it had to do with people from Germany in a way, with Edward Norton's chest there. But yeah,
I wouldn't say all people from Germany.
I don't want to say. Yeah. Oh no, yeah, my bad.
Yeah.
Especially the 1940s. There you go. But anyways, I think it's it is fictionalized, but I think you can definitely apply it to the fact that Edward Norton, I mean, just playing out as an extreme racist who, deals. They've basically set up these white supremacist cults. I think on the West Coast, and there's a bunch of gangs and everything like that who, are very open against not only hating black people, but hate any other race. And it's a very interesting story where Edward Norton's past is depicted. past with these crimes, with these hate crimes, is depicted in black and white, and he has, I wouldn't say necessarily a transformation, but he has like a realization while he's in prison for doing a certain act. And what I wasn't expecting is that the real driving force of this movie is his younger brother, and it's a younger brother who like looks up to him and wants to be like him. Unfortunately, his older brother is an absolute monster. So, whatever humanity, I don't want to spoil the whole thing, but whatever humanity Edward Norton has left of himself, he's just trying to use that in any way he can to try to help his brother not, you know, land on the same path that he did. But yeah, I think the cinematography is really, really. It doesn't glamorize it. It really, it's horrific. The things that the way the shots are set up, the violence. This is a very extreme movie that doesn't. There's no filter, and that might be hard for a lot of people to hear. A lot of people I saw. I said this to Dan. A lot of people think that with how brutally honest this is towards racism, how racist people, might vocalize their opinion on different colored people. I think that people think it's a little bit too extreme. And unfortunately, I saw reviews that said people would probably side with this, but that's the thing about honest art is unfortunately there are messed up people out like that in the world. So for me, obviously someone who doesn't think that way, this was super powerful. And I think that, it boils it down to like, what does racism even give you? Like, what does it do for your life? Basically, is what I believe a teacher asks Edward Norton. I don't want to spoil this one thing. It's a really good movie. Sorry, there's
Look,
there's a lot to say on it, but
man, one of
it,
my
it literally brings you nothing good in your life. So like, why do it? There's no reasoning for it.
right, one of my favorite scenes ever is in that movie. Spoiler alerts, everybody listening right now, go ahead and pause for like 30 seconds or skip forward 30 seconds. Um, the scene where Edward Norton, he's thinking about everything that he's done in the past. He's in the shower and he's like rinsing himself off. He's thinking about he and his brother running on the beach and they were just innocent little kids, and almost like he wants to go back to that time. And he gets out of the shower and he looks in the mirror and he feels like someone different. But he looks in the mirror and he sees a big swastika on his chest. And it's like, you may feel different, but are you different? And it just like really hits you. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah, so you can't wash that off either. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's almost like had a cleansing moment, but when he looks in the mirror, it's not gone. What he did.
Like he's still a bad person. I think that's the thing that a lot of people still skip ahead if you haven't skipped ahead. But like that's the thing a lot of people had an issue with is that it gave him some sort of a redemption, and it's not. He's still like he is. There's consequences for his actions, horrific consequences for his actions, and unfortunately there should be, right. And this is the reality of his life, the path that he chose to go on, no matter if he is a changed man or not. So
Yeah.
it just
good
shows you
movie, Dan.
the damage that it does to people, and
Around you, especially with his family. Jeez.
Yeah.
just how consuming it is. Like, just everything is it's just like a black hole of hatred that you can never fill up, no matter what you do, and it all ends the same place. So
We got to do a
I
podcast.
also love how they show you how it can start as well. Like they show that one scene with his dad, and it's so interesting
the dinner
because
table.
we're just talking about another whole movie,
Yeah.
but it just shows you how this stuff can start, like little tiny things, right? And then good movie, guys. Check it out if you want.
Yeah, and I think like that dinner table conversation is so good with his family because you see like the subtle things people say and how they that stuff works its way into a kid's head. And I think at a time today where we're seeing so many like angry young white kids just get radicalized by the internet and this and that and reading bullshit, I just think it's an important movie because it just shows you that. And the scene also at the table with Elliot Gould, who's like an older Jewish man, where again you kind of see it start with little like kind of like microaggression kind of things where he's just like making subtle digs and then it just escalates into this like horribleness. And that scene is like, I can imagine that was hard to film, but like it's just brutal and raw and shows you it. But yeah, I think it's great. I'm thinking what I want to recommend. I watched No Other Land, which was Oscar nominated documentary about Israel and Palestine, but it's not. It actually ended filming in October 2023. It's not about Gaza and the it's not about that. It's about the West Bank, and it starts in 2019 with essentially this kid Basel, who was an activist, like a peaceful activist. His dad was an activist who was arrested many times, but essentially he just started filming what's happening because in the West Bank, those people have been there since the 1880s when they settled it. And since 1967, Israel's just occupied it. And what they do is they essentially will bring in bulldozers with the IDF and they'll just knock down houses and schools and everything that's there. And they say they need the land to train tanks on. So it shows you that. You see like a elementary school being emptied out, all the kids get out of their class and then they knock down the school in front of the kids. You see people get shot just point blank without weapons. One guy, I forget his name, Abu Haram, I think is his last name. They were trying to steal the generator from the one village, and he just like grabbed it and was like, "What? We need this to like live. What are you doing?" They shot him in the back of the neck. He was paralyzed for the rest of his life. He was 24, and then he died. So you see stuff like that happen, and it's so. It removes the there's two sides to this because it's just people that are goat herders that are just want to exist. They have very simple lives, but they're happy with those lives. They just want to be there because they've been there since, again, the 1880s, like I said. And then just literal thugs who are armed, obscenely well armed, who just come whenever they please and take what they want and destroy things. And they say you don't have building permits, but to get a permit, you have to go through Israeli courts and you can't get them. And that's the system that keeps these people having nothing. So yeah, it's just powerful. They filmed it from 2019 to 2023, and an Israeli journalist, Yuval Abraham, got involved with Basel and said, "I'm going to help you and try to get this story out." And it shows you that, it's not about everyone in Israel is wrong. There are people that care, right? But you see how he's treated by the country and how his family was treated, and how he fears for his life, essentially, for helping talk about this stuff. So. I think it's going to win the Oscar, which it should. But people should watch it. And no company would distribute it in the U.S.
How did you watch it?
A company called Cinetech, this tiny company that helps independent movies get some distribution, was able to get involved and help a little bit. So the Philadelphia Film Society was showing it. I think there are screenings around the country that are very limited, but you can look it up. Someone said you can rent it on Prime. I don't know if that's true, but if you can find a screening, watch it.
I don't think so. I mean,
you don't think there are screenings?
Let's say I tried. I couldn't find it.
Yeah, but I just think it's important. And again, it's just about showing. It's about using the camera as a tool to just show what is happening, and it speaks for itself. So that's all.
Wow. What is it called one more time, Dan?
It's called No Other Land.
Dang. I will say one thing I watched your review on it, but one thing I didn't catch was the fact that it was before the entire war was happening, which I think makes it even more powerful. Because I think, unfortunately, people, if it was, let's say it was filmed during the war, right? People could go into it thinking, obviously, Palestinian side is going to show, you know what I'm saying? It would be in a war. I hate how I'm trying to frame this. It feels more raw, right? This is what was happening before. You can only imagine what led up to it, kind of a thing.
Yeah, and it's like you think back over 50 years, 60 years, and you imagine when you watch this happen to people you love over and over and over and over again. At what point do you say, "I'm going to do something"? It's just, I don't know. And this is not even God. This is the West Bank. This is its own area. These are small villages in mountains. It's barely even habitable, but the people just want to live there because they have lived there. So yeah, it just shows you how these people are treated, and helps you understand what's going on. So yeah.
Right. What a wide range of recommendations we have.
Yeah.
Love it. But Charles, my guy, welcome back to Good Will Podcasting. Thanks for talking about Captain America. I'm sorry we didn't end it on a good note with the new film, unfortunately. But you know, it is what it is. You don't know the good films unless you've seen the bad ones.
That's right.
So I feel like that's like annoying, like something annoying that people say all the time. Like, why do you watch bad movies? How am I supposed to know what a good movie is? You know. But anyways, if you guys enjoyed have are listening to Charles talk with us today, please let them know where they can find you, my guy.
They can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. The Real Voice. Word.
Yeah, please go. There's no one more well spoken, I think, than Charles in the real voice. I mean, he does have a real voice. My voice is annoying as hell. Um, Good lord, when I'm editing TikToks, there's nothing I hate more than editing TikToks and nonstop, just over and over and over again. I hear myself, man, that just does me in. I'll tell you what. But
Same for me
yeah.
too.
Yeah, I wouldn't annoy me. No, I purposely just have yours like playing in the background to like soothe myself. Anyways,
I think it's a
Dan,
red
what are we
flag
talking
if you
about?
enjoy the sound of your own voice. I'll say that.
What are we talking about next week? Is the monkey next week?
Oh yeah.
I don't. The monkey already came out.
No. That was an advanced showing. It didn't come out.
Yeah, it comes out next Friday. And mine's a mix.
Oh yeah, we are talking about the monkey. Oh,
We're talking about the monkey and
Hated
Stephen
it.
King movies.
Oh god.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, that's good. I believe we're gonna have Chuck on for it.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
So, yeah, excited, looking forward to that. But Charles, thanks so much for joining us this morning. Thank you everyone for listening to Go Well Podcasting. Go follow us and subscribe to us places if you want to. That'd be kind of awesome. We love looking at one more follower. It just brings a smile to our faces. Happy that people love to hear us talk about our favorite things in the world, movies. But until next week, until Stephen King, until the monkey, which I've heard mixed things on, go outside, sit on a park bench, touch some grass, call your friends up, and we'll see you then. Peace out, everybody.